All right, good evening, everyone. Bing bong, welcome to another wonderful weekend here on this channel. Um, uh, I always struggle with the beginning because for some reason I never write these things down. But hello, everyone, and welcome to another Geeks at Sea here on Bimji Streams, the channel that forever, ever, ever will be a WIP for God knows how long. I swear I am going to do that rebrand someday soon because I'm actually like 50% of the way down anyways. But in any case, tonight here for Geeks at Sea, I have a very special guest here with me, Associate Professor, Technologist Dr. Tan's, it is Doctor, right? Dr. Tan Chin Ike. Ah, God.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So here's the funniest thing about Dr. Ike. I don't know whether you know, but like, a fact of the matter is that I grew up in a very like a fairly politically connected family. So
Right, okay.
so I got really used to calling people Dato. Like like that was the biggest D title that showed up in my vocabulary when I was a very young kid, and it's some part ingrained into my brain. So every time I call someone doctor, my brain freezes a little bit and go like, wait, is it Dato, doctor, Dato, doctor?
Yeah. If I doubt, call Dato first, then you can correct. Because if you call a Dato a Dato a doctor, that's another thing altogether, right?
I know, right? It's so weird at some level. Anyways, all right. So yeah. So before for those who've never been here with us before, for those who don't know, Geeks at Sea is it's a tiny little segment I do every couple of weeks or so. This is the 23rd entry at this point, where I talk to interesting geeks around the Southeast Asia region, thus Geeks at Sea, right? And what we usually do is we go through our lives growing up as geeks, how things have changed in the past, how things are looking right now, and how things are going to look in the future. Of course, with everyone's unique little spin and stories and stuff like that. So Dr. Ike here with me today in particular, we're going to be talking a little bit more about his experiences advocating for games education specifically within Malaysia as well. So hence the title, Professing a Love for Games. Funnily enough, I've actually not done this sort of intro in a very, very long time. So I hope that none of that was a surprise to you, Dr. Ike.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm just happy to be here and to profess my geekiness. Here's a funny thing, right?
Right.
35 years ago, we wouldn't, at least at my generation, to be called a geek, it's like a fighting word, an insult. But now there's something, there's an inherent sexiness to being geeky, right?
I definitely think Chris Hemsworth did a lot of work to sort of change that perception.
Henry Cavill as well, right?
Oh, definitely Henry Cavill.
D&D, yeah, definitely Dungeons and Dragons and everything, yeah. So, all right, so yes. Let's see how geeky I can be.
All right, so
I'm probably your oldest geeky guest, right?
Oh, well, that's going to be that might be a bit of a competition, but let's give that a try. Let's see how it goes, right? So anyways, before we begin, I want to put up 3 standard disclaimers first for us, because especially for those who have never joined us before, I just want to make it very clear. Number one, we're going to be sharing a lot of our personal stories here today, especially from Dr. Ike. Please keep in mind, because these are personal stories, like these are mostly more or less just our opinions and our opinions alone. We're going to talk about our experiences through the industry, and so this may, like, while we're telling stories, like say for example, while we're a part of certain institutions or organizations, it might seem as though our opinions might be reflective of the entire organization or institution. Please keep in mind that's not how organizations or institutions work. Every time we say something like that, it's always our personal opinions, and they're not going to be reflective of the entire organization or institution. Let's keep in mind. That's disclaimer number one. Disclaimer number two, whatever we're going to be saying is going to be our opinions and our thoughts at that specific spot in time, or even just our current thoughts in time. Our opinions might change, and because this is all coming off the top of our heads, it may not be precise. So please take everything we say with a huge grain of salt. All right. And also keep in mind, we are also very unreliable narrators. What we are going to be sharing with you is going to be the truth based on our perspective as well. Even if we are correct, it is going to be based on whatever limited information that we have. So, as they say, viewer discretion is advised.
Ooh, right? I like that. Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, also for those who want to know, today's session in particular is largely going to be audio only. You won't be able to see our photos. So you can see me and my wonderful blinking image out there today, and as well as Dr. Ike's wonderful pixelated image bouncing as we talk along.
And actually that's a strategic move as well. I just came back from a massive durian party. So I'm a bit conscious of the extra pounds that I just put on as well. So
thankfully we're not doing this live in any one particular studio. Otherwise, I would be also smelling that result of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, so yeah, but there might be still some pictures. Dr. Ike has very graciously shared with me some very, very old photos. I saw a calendar that says 87, and believe it or not, that at that point, I was 1 year old.
You betrayed your age.
I've been very open about it. There's no way on earth we're going to do this segment without betraying some parts of our age, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyways. All right. So without further ado, let's start. I start this segment, every one of these segments, with the exactly same way. Dr. Ike, let's start from the very beginning of it all. What was the first geeky thing you got really into? What was your first geekdom? What was the biggest geeky thing, and when was that?
In terms of the geekiness scale, there's just so many. But I think if I were to choose one particular point in my life where all the true geekiness came out, it would be, and I would like to if you could share this picture of the one of me playing the game with that helmet on.
Oh, let me just pull it up.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Yeah.
Give me a quick.
So is it on?
It is on now.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So this is me. And I was playing this game on a PC. I think those days was the 8088, and I was playing this game called Gunship, which came out in 1986, 85. I can't really recall.
Wow.
Or was it even 83? Yeah. And it's basically you're playing the Apache gunship. Okay, and a little disclaimer, right? This is the first time I'm ever going to show this picture, and probably the last time, because it's something I don't feel particularly proud of. But if you had to ask the question, what's so geeky? Okay, so this is me playing a simulator gunship game.
Right.
And to ensure that I had everything immersive about this game, I put on my, at that time was a $1 German helmet with a cap and two little things that's supposed to simulate the optical scope. A belt and a binoculars, right, to give that. Oh yes, I'm a Apache gunship pilot.
I really need to zoom
as
in
you
on
can
this
see.
one. I need to zoom in on this one.
Oh,
what?
And this, it's an epitome of geekiness, right? And I was so engrossed in the game, I didn't even realize my parents came up and took a picture of me playing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's my level of geekiness.
Okay, I have to ask a rather seemingly random question on this one, right? So when your parents got you this, I'm assuming your parents got you this console.
Yeah, I couldn't afford it at the time.
I mean, obviously, right? Like, this was a PC device, was it?
Yes, it was a PC, IBM XT.
Wow, where do you get this? Where would you get something like this back in the day? I mean, the calendar says 87, right? Like, so we're assuming this is back in 1987.
Yeah. I can't really remember. I think we went to there were not many PC shops at that time. I remember we went there and we just purchased this machine.
Was this
sorry?
Was this in Gale?
Yes, it was in KL.
Right.
But the game itself, okay, now I can remember where we purchased the game. It was this shop right upstairs, top floor of Jaya Supermarket, way back in Petaling Jaya Supermarket, the old Jaya, yeah, not the new one now.
Right.
And there was this shop called Pineapple Computers.
Wow.
And what they did was they actually copied on. Yeah, it's the first pirated games shop, and you went in with a disk drive, and this was a 5.25-inch floppy disk.
Right.
They copied for you together with a manual. They photosetted the manual, and you could come back. Yeah, I think I paid about, each game was, I think, about 5 ringgit.
Wow.
For one floppy disk.
Right. So that's like 5 ringgit. Weird question to ask, just for like adjustment for inflation kind of thing. What's the average price of a teh tarik back in those days? Do you still remember?
Oh goodness, I think those days 10 cents was Sicha, Chinese tea. Teh tarik would probably be 40 cents.
Okay, so teh tarik would be about 40 cents. Right now, teh tarik is about what, 160?
Yeah, it's a bit higher than that. I think it's about 180.
180.
$2 depending where you have your teh tarik in.
So let's say 180, right? And yours is about like, so that is roughly about 450% raise price, right?
Yeah.
So 5 ringgit adjusted to inflation would be roughly about, say, about 20, 30 ringgit roughly.
About there, yeah. For a pirated game, mind you.
Yeah.
Which is the same price that you get your PlayStation 2 games last time at the DVD shop and the VCD shop, right? That's about what, 10 ringgit per CD.
Correct.
I'm not advocating pirating games, by the way. I have stopped pirating games. All my games are bought original.
Yeah. No one on this show ever advocates for going to the high seas. Yes. Yeah, but yeah, no. Wonderful glimpse of it all, actually, because I mean, for me myself, my first introduction to PCs and stuff like that was pretty late when I was 15 years old, right? So I was born in '86.
Okay, all right. Okay.
So at that point, 15 years old would roughly put me like, in 1991 kind of thing. Sorry, no, not 91. Sorry, it's 2001. Sorry.
2001, yeah.
So around 2000.
Those were the days of Pentium 4, Pentium 2.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Right,
So,
yeah. So mine was a 8088, by the way. That was way before, and we used, our operating system was the DOS operating system.
So you had to put in your manual commands and everything else like that.
Correct. Yeah. Nice. So you had to put in your floppy disk with the DOS. It load up, and then you had to put in your other disk. So yeah, and I remember those days. Oh gosh, I think each floppy was someone better correct me on this. I think was 512 KB only, or less. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about the Save Icon floppies, right?
No, this was the Save Icon floppies was the 144 megabyte ones.
Oh, really?
That was it. Yeah. So this was the floppy ones. So which you could bend.
Right, the predecessor, the ones that were like the size of, I don't know, like some people's monitors, like small monitors or something like that.
Not that. This was a 5.25 one. So it's there were 2 sizes of the floppy disk. One was a really huge one,
right?
The size of an iPad. This one was probably the size. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I still remember, like, now if you watch some really old documentaries about like nuclear silos and stuff, you can still see them using like those giant floppies.
Yes, yeah.
And
exactly.
Yeah, and it's the closest thing of, like, it's the closest you'll ever see of this old tech still being used today.
I think you probably haven't seen the punch cards yet.
Really? Are they still around? Are punch cards still around?
I think somewhere out there some people are still using punch cards just for the heck of it. Yeah, but then again, floppies are not around anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody uses floppies.
Well, anyways, all right. So was this your first game? Like this? Was this you playing your first game?
No, this was my first. You asked which was my epitome of geekiness, right. So this was the epitome. I think my first game. Oh goodness, I think that's probably the next picture that you have
really?
with the Space Invaders sort of thing, right?
Really?
So
Okay,
that was something you pointed out as well, right?
Yeah, let me just pull this up. Give me a second, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm just going to fade in and out
Okay.
a little bit as we pull up the picture. Let me just pull it up. I think this would be it.
Yep. Yeah, so I can't recall what game I was playing, but yeah, next to it was Space Invaders, and you asked me earlier this question, right? Is that the original Space Invaders?
Right.
Yes, it is. Yeah, Space Invaders basically came out in 1978. This was it.
Oh, okay. Can I ask who's that beside you?
That's my mom.
Oh,
showing all the fake interests.
Yeah. I always find it fascinating. Yes, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think probably the first game I've ever played would be Pac-Man. Really? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Pac-Man could be the first game I've ever played.
Fascinating. Did Pac-Man leave an impression with you in any particular way? Like the one that, in any way that stood out for you?
It not annoyed the hell out of me because I always and that's probably the start of my level of impatience. Yeah, it did leave an impression that I was not good enough for video games. I could never beat the high score. So yeah, but I think on a more positive note, right? I think that was where my love of video games started then.
Really? From your frustrations.
So arcade centers was one, and those days, there were very few places that you could play arcades. Now, mind you, this was before the boom of the 1990s, late 80s and early 90s arcade centers where you had Street Fighter 5 and everything. Right. The early games were actually very I remember I played this somewhere in Cameron Highlands, or was it Genting Highlands? So there were not many places you could play arcade games like this accessible to kids. I'm sure Sungai Wang Plaza had a mall in KL had, but for the life of me I couldn't recall. This was probably in the early 80s.
Right. So
yeah. So thereafter, I remembered. Sorry, I better say before I forget, right?
Right.
So this was one of the few times where I played an actual arcade games. But what happened those days was we actually had little shops that allowed us to go in and buy or rent their computers. And we could play games there, right? So it was, and most of the kids there were really young. They were about probably primary 1, 7 to about 9 years old. This was on an Apple II SE, and I played games like, if I name it, you probably wouldn't know, right? Montezuma's Revenge, Escape to Castle Rurenstein,
Funnily enough, I know that one.
Sorry?
Escape to Castle Wolfenstein, was it?
Yes, Escape to Castle. That's not Wolfenstein 3D, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
it's not.
Two separate things altogether.
It's not. But I somehow have an impression of it. Yeah, that one I might know. Strangely.
I think it was a really crappy game. Games like Commander Keen, Rescue Raiders. Yeah, so if for whoever is above 45, you probably recognize some of the names there.
Right.
Okay, and those were black and white games, right? It was just monochrome computers.
Right. So just so that I can sort of like get a timeline from this a little bit, yeah. So one of the first games you played was Pac-Man, and this was somewhere in the early 80s.
Early 80s, yeah.
Yeah. And then and that was in the arcade as well as like when one of the pictures was taken as well. This picture in particular was taken as well. Was around the early 80s, and like a lot of your initial gaming experiences were all around these arcade centers, which were relatively rare as well in their own place, in their own right.
Yeah.
Wow.
From my memory, as far as I can recall.
Of course. I mean, one of the big things about while we're sharing these stories, it's worth always recognizing that it's always contained within the locations that we're in, right? one of the things that I remembered, one of the more interesting comparisons I used to have with people and people on this show was always about how um, life in Penang versus life in KL was surprisingly similar.
Oh, I wouldn't know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know, right?
Probably, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it was. I was
Yeah.
comparing some notes about like some of us were really into comics, right? Like back in the day, both of us, people both in Penang and over here in KL as well, both of us experienced a boon in the 90s where comic rental shops became a huge thing.
Yeah, I was a huge part of that scene as well.
Right,
So I
exactly.
think that's my second level of geekiness.
Yep. Well, let's not jump
Yeah.
ahead too fast. Let's not jump ahead too fast. But I was just going to pull that up as an example, and where we differ and like between person to persons, it's always very interesting, and once again, part of the charm of what we do here, right? So yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So okay. So very interestingly, then, because you mentioned because one of the first introductions you mentioned earlier was you know going full headgear into gaming and stuff like that. Um, did your parents end up buying the game or the PC because they saw how much you liked the arcade? Was it just sheer coincidence they ended up like that?
Yeah, I think the reason why they bought a PC is more for the kids to learn a little bit of programming. So when we
Wow.
got the PC, it came together with. I remember this quite vividly. We had to go for like a 5-day workshop to
Yeah.
learn basic programming.
Really?
Yeah. And my dad was also a journalist, so he needed a computer. So here's the interesting thing.
Right.
My dad used to use the old school typewriter.
Right. So the one with the ching,
Yes, exactly. Ching ching. Yeah,
yeah, that's very
that old
cool.
school.
Yeah.
And I think we had 2 or 3 of it at home. So he was a
Wow.
journalist. And he got a computer also because everything was moving digital. So he wanted to be one of the first few to actually start writing on the computer. But at the same time, he knew that that's the computer is moving. Is the way forward, right? So he encouraged us to learn word processing. And a little bit of programming, which I never did, by the way. I remember going for the course, and I didn't bother about that later. I used the computer for games, and I hope my mom isn't going to listen to this. And those days, the only way we could get porn was to print out you went to the pirated shop, you got this floppy disk, and you could print out everything in ASCII art. So it wasn't real pictures, it was ASCII art on a dot metric picture. So I remember printing a couple of, and it wasn't porn by the way, it was just a lady, Samantha Fox, I remember, I think that was the name, in a very provocative pose, and that was about it. But it's all ASCII art, by the way. If you don't know what ASCII art is, just symbols and text put together to make an image.
That is so. Funnily enough, I'm very glad that I've actually flagged this very specifically. Like, this is not for children. Like, I just
yeah, but children now they have access to much worse stuff. Okay,
yeah,
at
yeah.
the tip of the.
I don't need to encourage them. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Yeah.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, as a just for those who don't know, like, just a little like glance behind this curtain kind of thing, like, inside baseball kind of shit, right? YouTube does ask whether like like our programs are meant for children, and I very intentionally click like, no, this is not made for children. As a rule. Because for very simple reasons. For very simple reasons. First, I think children would get bored listening to this. No, I mean, if you're interested, by all means, that's great. Like, hey, if you're into the history of games and history of whatever else we're doing at a very young age, all the power to you, man. I am all for it. But I do have a lot of guests here that, like, because we're a little bit on the older side of things, we tend to be very casual about cursing. You know what I mean? So I try not to have situations where like children pick up cursing from these segments, and that was always the biggest thing that I was always a bit more sensitive about. Believe it or not, you are the first person to mention porn on this.
Oh, is it? I probably would have some surprises up my sleeve along the way. So yeah,
it's fine. Let's go. I am 100% here for it.
All right. Yep. Yep.
Anyways, all right. So yeah. So as you were saying, but yeah, fascinating. Where would you get it though? Like, did you have access to the internet from like that early an age as well?
Oh, by the way, there was no internet in those days.
Right.
Or at least in Malaysia,
Right.
we didn't have any dial-up modems or anything at that time.
Right.
Everything was done offline.
Right. That's why I was asking. I was wondering because as far as I know, um, we were still struggling with internet penetration in the 90s.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I mentioned, everything we got it from the this shop in Jaya supermarket, right? Everything, right?
Everything.
So application software, yeah, illicit materials, yeah.
All right. Do you have any idea at all, like how they would source it?
I think they would probably buy it some form. I think they managed to get the original game somewhere. No, but to be honest, I think there was some limited BBS those days. Don't quote me on that. I'm actually
Right,
not 100% sure. Yeah, yeah.
Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I am asking just on the offhand chance that you had some guess, that kind of thing. Yeah, because it is a curious thing. Like without the internet, how was early day piracy supposed to be, done and all that?
That's an awesome question. I'm going to research that and get back to you another day on that.
I'll be looking forward to the research paper.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's continue. All right. So, so you got your PC early in your days. You were exploring PCs, but you never picked up programming. But that you mentioned, like gaming was sort of how it sparked this whole passion of yours along the way. So,
Yeah.
so what happened along the way from the point of you getting your PC? How did the story continue?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, along the way, right up to I think I was playing a lot of games on that 8088 computer. And that was probably the last PC I had. We never upgraded to the old 286, 386, 486, so I missed out on a lot of games then. And it was that time where my parents actually, or my dad came back with the first classic Macintosh, the Mac Classic. There were some games there, but generally in those days, sorry Steve Jobs, but Mac sucks, right? I mean, there were no games you could play on a Mac.
Right.
And at that point in time, I was in secondary school. So the only way I could play games is to go to the arcade centers. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah. So another thing that I managed to get and my dad had was a laptop. Sorry, I totally forgot. He had a work laptop.
Okay.
And I remembered one of the things that we did in those days was the time when Doom came out.
Oh.
Yeah, and my friend, my neighbor, who lived just behind me, he had another laptop, so we both connected on Doom. And those days, it was using the serial port. There were no LAN, there were no internet at that time as well, or at least not accessible to me.
Right.
So we used a laptop to laptop serial connector, and we played multiplayer Doom.
Wow.
Whenever my dad wasn't using it, but it was his computer, so he wasn't in the house most of the time. But whenever he was on the weekends, that's where I would just snatch it and say I want to do some work, and went to my friend's house, and that's where we played Doom.
I never knew Doom was multiplayerable actually.
Through the serial connection, yes, wow. Yes. So Doom was the start of the actual LAN parties. Wow. That was the history of how Doom started, right? Through LAN parties.
I mean, I think like to be fair, like I think because I was introduced to PC gaming and all that so late, right? A lot of these earlier day sort of I would say like game culture stuff did very much fly by me. And being not exactly from a very affluent background, like a lot of these later opportunities for gaming, especially when they were more focused around consoles and stuff,
right.
Also similarly was like, flew past me as well. So yeah, But it was always fascinating when I hear stories from people who would spend hours and hours at the arcade and stuff like that, and these stories about Doom and stuff like that. It's always fascinating. Would you quick question on that one then? Did you ever end up getting into like LAN cafes and stuff like that too? Was there a thing during that time?
Yeah, years later. Well, I wouldn't call them. It was cyber cafes, but we did have LAN parties. So LAN parties that came later on when I worked at my first job.
Wow,
right?
Really?
Yeah.
So we're jumping really ahead already, if that's the case. Right?
Yeah. So let's dial back the time first. Yeah.
Let's dial back the time back. So okay. So quick recap again. Once again, your dad brought back your first Mac. You jumped past a bunch of PC versions, but you did have access to a laptop, which gave you access to Doom, multiplayer Doom, which is where you got experience with multiplayer Doom. I have to ask then, if that's the case, how is multiplayer Doom like? For those who are not familiar with it.
How is how do I describe it? So
is it exactly like how everyone would expect like multiplayer Doom to be like you would all spawn in the same dungeon and all of you guys would be killing wave after wave of enemies together kind of thing?
I'm trying to remember how the gameplay was, because so Doom was actually what came first was Wolfenstein 3D.
Right.
Wolfenstein 3D was basically a commercial success. So just to share, so I actually teach history of games right now, and I have to share this, right? There are two main figures I'd like to share, and you can research on this later. John Carmack and John Romero, and they started ID or id Software, and they were responsible for Wolfenstein 3D, which then later on went on to Doom and went on to Quake, and they were the ones responsible, and they invented the modern first-person shooter and 3D game engines. Wolfenstein 3D came out in 1992, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it really just 92? Holy crap!
Yeah, 1992. Right. It's termed as the grandfather of 3D shooters, right? So Escape from Wolfenstein came out first, and these two gentlemen played Escape from Wolfenstein, and they realized, hey, let's do something which is more on the first person. And this was quite interesting because Wolfenstein 3D had a little face there of your character as he got injured. You can see blood coming out of his nose and everything, and he had expressions on his face. That was Wolfenstein 3D. Then they moved into Doom, and Doom came out in 1993. It sort of broke away from the slow grid-based movements of Wolfenstein 3D, giving it a more slightly fluid, sort of action-heavy gunplay. And so Doom was amazing, right? Their use of lighting and heavy metal-inspired soundtracks and that horror sci-fi aesthetics, right? Gave it sort of like a feel that felt unmatched at that time. And I remembered, and I really have to share this, I played Doom in my friend's house, right? And I installed Doom in my father's laptop as well. And one of the days I remembered I came back and he wasn't home at night. So I decided to play Doom by myself. I switched off all the lights, turned the volume full blast, and it was at that time was the creepiest thing I ever played. Because Doom, right, you could actually hear the monsters growling beside you as they came closer. And when your lights are off and it's at night, it's crazy creepy at that time. And the graphics was comical, but the feeling was real.
I think if I still remember like the ambient noise in Doom, you could actually hear scratching.
Exactly. Right. Growling, grunting, and all the little footsteps. Oh, that was pure adrenaline rush.
And I think like obviously to any student who's any game student who's really into horror games and stuff like that, it would seem second nature. Like, definitely sound is a given, right? Like that's how you give atmosphere and stuff like that. But I think you sort of have to really recognize, like back in the day, Doom was practically the first to do this kind of shit.
practically to do it successfully.
Oh,
I would say,
really?
right? Yeah, yeah.
Wow. I like the asterisks on
I'm
that.
sure there are games out there which had a little bit of the ambient sounds and everything, but yeah, it wasn't that fast paced, in your face sort of thing. Because I remember Doom, as you could hear a sound to your left and you turn it,
Right.
and suddenly a monster just popped out. And that frightened the bejesus out of you.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Exactly. And if you consider the fact that like Wolfenstein 3D was one of the first like 3D shooters, and if you consider like the fact that Doom was its immediate successor in many ways, the likelihood of anything to happen in between, it's pretty low. But I do appreciate the asterisks, Dr. Ike.
It's just a year apart. By the way, they called it Wolfenstein 3D, right? But it wasn't 3D.
Oh,
It was actually, it wasn't 3D. It was raster. They just made the illusion of 3D.
nice, nice. I hear you. I hear you. And the fact is, there are a lot of games nowadays that give you the illusion or some stuff, and which in actuality, if you play into it, you realize, oh wait, it's not really true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was the later game, Quake, that came out. That was actually true 3D graphics.
Sweet.
Yep. Yeah, so a
Wonderful
little
bit
glimpse
of-
into history there.
Yeah, wonderful glimpse of history. By the way, small side note for those who are also curious about this, you actually can find YouTube videos on the history of video games. There's a few videos that are impressively detailed. Some of them are like 4 hours long, that cover everything from like the rise, that it covers everything, including like the rise of PlayStation to like the rise of Sega and all that stuff as well. Yeah, and it does cover the founding of id Software and Doom and PC gaming in general as well. It's fairly interesting.
Yep, a lot of resources out there, a lot. Or you can enroll into my class and I can give you a free 5-hour lecture.
Yeah, definitely Google Dr. Ike after this, man. Like his full name is down there in the description below. I am 100% behind this stuff. Yeah. Just for a note, and if anyone's wondering, I did ask for any potential promo links. He didn't. Dr. Ike did not give me one, so please, you'll have to do the homework yourself. Anyways, okay, so yes, but yeah, sounds like you're a huge fan of like that early era of like PC gaming as well.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of disclaimer here. So I've never been tested. I suspected all a while, and I think I still suspect that.
Right.
So I was a very energetic kid way back when I was young. So I was a little monster actually.
Right.
Whenever I was at home, I went to my relative's house, I'll be tearing around the whole place, making lots of noise. So a little bit of ADHD. I think video games was the only thing that could actually keep me calm. It kept me calm. It definitely kept me on seated for hours at end. So it was an interesting outlet for me, and I think that's why I got so engrossed in video games and anything to do with screen-based technology.
Interesting.
I remember. Sorry.
Oh no! I have a very interesting question on that note. Did your parents know you were playing Doom?
I think they probably didn't care. Those days, parents they wouldn't know what games. Now you mentioned violent video games, and those days video games I don't think it was mainstream enough to cause any parents any concern in Malaysia.
Right. The only reason why I'm asking is because it's very interesting to imagine a very young and hyper energetic Dr. Ike, right? Like finding his calm in blowing up hordes of demons. Like heavy metal,
exactly.
Heavy metal, death, blood, and gore, and like yes, this is my zen.
But by the time Wolfenstein came out, I was actually I just finished high school actually.
Oh, really?
So the earlier games would be the non-violent, violent enough. I mean, I played games like I want to name a few games. I don't know whether you've heard of it. Load Runner, Leisure Suit Larry, Police Quest. Those were the games I played when I was much younger. Gunship was I remember vividly Gunship because that game literally I played over and over again, and that wasn't so violent. I mean, if you were to Google Gunship, you'll see it's pixelated mayhem, right? It's all pixel with and there were no blood and gore. So generally it's not as violent, and I remember playing Dig Duck as well.
Oh, okay.
On my computer. Yeah. So yeah, I know you told me not to read the comments, but yeah, one of my colleagues just posted energetic till today. Yeah, so yes. I've been called that. I've been caught on that at 5 o'clock in the evening when everybody is like winding down, ready to go home. One of my staff came up to me and says, yeah, Ike, what's wrong with you? Why are you still so energetic? Why are you still bouncing around the whole office? Yeah, so anyway.
I've never found that as a bad thing. I'll put it this much.
It's
intimidating. It's scary as but like it is definitely not a bad thing.
Yeah, they probably just feel like probably like pepper spraying me and just to keep me quiet and yeah.
you don't get people to quiet down by spraying them with pepper spray, man.
Yeah.
You do it by spraying them with like tranquilizer or something.
Yep. Yeah. So.
Anyways.
Okay. Right. Yes. So, anyways. Yes.
So, well, that's interesting because now I have a new peg in the timeline, right? Like by the time Wolfenstein was out, and Doom was out, you were actively playing, but by that point you're already like late into your teens already by that point.
Yeah, I was in college at that time already.
Wow. Okay. So that was also like around the same time that you first got access to a laptop, your dad's laptop obviously at that point.
Right. Yeah.
What were you studying when you went into college?
Okay, so that's another interesting story. So I didn't do very well in high school. Yeah. At that time, there were only two things of interest to me in high school. You probably can guess the first one, girls, and the other thing was I was an avid Boy Scout.
Really?
So everything revolved around Scouts, and the only reason why I joined Scouts is because I had this thing for uniform unit. So remember I told you I played gunship?
Right.
That piqued my interest in military stuff. I remembered playing gunship, and gunship had this manual where you had to read, and those days, those games, PC games, they were actually, say for example, right, their way of piracy control. They would say that to proceed on the game, go to page 6, find word 7 from line 4, and you type in the word and the game will proceed, right? And you couldn't play without the manual.
Right.
And the manual had lots and lots of military stuff, right? Gunship, it's all about reading about tanks and everything. So it piqued my interest.
Right.
Read up a lot of military stuff, and I joined Scouts because it was the closest thing to having a uniform in those days.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was really active. So much active that I think I neglected my high school.
I know the feeling
50% of my time, 50% of my time was for Scouts. The other 50% was chasing girl guides.
Nice.
So, I mean, so I didn't do a. Sorry, you're gonna ask something?
It's nice to have a focus. Is all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's too much of a focus if you ask my mom, right? So I did quite badly. I didn't do very well for maths. Did horribly for accounts. And those days, my sister was studying S.E.A. those days, and after high school, I didn't have a clue of what I wanted to do. So with no maths, I couldn't go into computer science, computing. With no accounts, I couldn't go into accounts, right? I wanted to go accounts, but I sucked in accounts. So I chose the best thing for a person of my capability. I did graphic design.
Really?
Yeah, I did graphic design. I went to Lim Kok Wing. I know your previous podcast with Ivan, he mentions a lot about Lim Kok Wing. Yeah, so I was the first batch. I'm the pioneer batch of Lim Kok Wing.
Wow, really?
That was way back in 1992.
Really? Well, so that means literally when Lim Kok Wing was founded, you were one of the first few people
one of the first few students. Yes,
wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I studied graphic design, technology. Focused on, I wanted to do animation, but the only thing stopping me from doing animation was So at that time, I bought a Macintosh. It was a LC3, so it was a really old machine. And those days we didn't have graphic cards, right? So for Macs, didn't have graphic cards. They used this thing called FPU chip, floating point unit chip, Max coprocessor. And without a coprocessor, you couldn't do 3D, or at least 3D was really slow. So I wanted to do 3D, but my computer didn't allow me to do 3D. So I went into interactive multimedia. I picked up this software called Macromedia Director. Long time ago. I did a little bit of scripting. And my first job, I actually joined as an offline video editor. I did video editing for about 3 months. Then I went into doing post-production. I did special effects for TV commercials and videos. Oh. Yeah.
So like,
and that. Sorry.
Oh, so I was gonna say, like, so basically stuff like, say for example, if you see an ad and like you see sparkles fly across the ad and stuff like that, that would be you, essentially.
Okay, so I'm going to give a perfect example of what I did. Right. So if I'm sure are you a Star Wars fan?
I'm okay.
Because if you say you like Star Trek more, this podcast is over.
I'm sorry.
so anyway, if you remember the first Star Wars, right, the 1970, 76 version, 78 version,
right?
How they did the lightsaber was they drew the light onto a screen, right?
Yeah,
frame by frame.
It's onto the frame. It's onto the film itself. Yes, frame by frame. Yes.
Exactly. So what we did at a company was, now those days we didn't use film anymore. But we did use film, but we didn't draw it on the film plate.
Right.
We used Photoshop, and we Photoshop, for example, like laser shooting out frame by frame. So my role was to draw things frame by frame on Photoshop, and this was the Photoshop 2.0 before we had layers.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that's basically what I did. I did drawing of like effects, right? Lightning effects. You have to do it one by one, frame by frame.
Right.
When we did things like rotoscoping on green screen, we had to green screen it frame by frame as well.
Right. So basically situations where you had like the old Stephen Chow movies and he goes like, pew or something like that, and then you see this beam of yellow that flies across the screen. That would be your job to like put in the beam of yellow frame by frame by frame as it.
Exactly. I was really good at it. I loved it. I loved doing that. I could do everything from motion blur. Yeah, so motion blur those days was literally manual as well, using Photoshop, doing frame by frame as well, and it was really tedious work.
Fascinating. Now motion blur is like, just one button, go home.
Yeah, just a click, right? Yeah. So along the way, after doing that, then my company decided to go into something called education games. They wanted to explore education games, and that's where I went back into Macromedia Director again. Picked up a little bit of scripting. They sent me overseas to learn a bit of programming, and I came back, and that's where I discovered my love for programming. Yeah, wow. And that's where I did the shift later on in life, where I went into a little bit more on the programming side of things. So I'm quite blessed to actually have both the arts and the programming level.
So this was that based on the timeline we've been talking about so far. This would somewhere be in the late 90s, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so I started work in 1995. 95. 95, late 95. And by the time I stopped that job was in 98. Yeah, so yes, in the 90s.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Wow. Did your company at the time like manage to get anything, like any particular product that stood out for you? Like, because you went into educational gaming, right? Like, was there any particular product that stood out when you were working with the company?
As in, did we produce anything, or did we purchase anything that to
produce anything? I think would be an interesting way to start it.
Well, it was just a venture into education games. We really didn't manage to produce anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but it gave me a lot of insights onto doing that. And in between my free time, so here's the funny thing, right? So I was doing education games, and this was typical education games. But in between that, I actually started to explore and experiment with doing little like shoot 'em ups and little things like asteroid games and everything using Director. Yeah, so on my free time, and that's where I sort of self-taught on Lingo, and Lingo was the language for Director, which is and Director was derivative of C++, so it more or less had the same structure, OOP structure, so on and so forth. Yeah.
So so it wasn't very difficult. Effectively, it wasn't very difficult for you to make the leap to C++ from there.
It wasn't, but I remember I did very badly for my maths, so it took a very, very long time for me to actually understand the concept of mathematics. But by doing programming and through the love of games, I actually could apply mathematics a little bit easier, because I see, for example, we talk about trigonometry, right? In high school, I never knew what the heck I would use trigonometry for, right? I didn't see a purpose. I didn't see a purpose for linear algebra. I didn't see a purpose for matrices as well.
Of course.
But I always like to share this little story. If you think of Angry Birds, right? And if I want to do a game like Angry Birds, how am I going to shoot the little pig or the little bird in an angle?
Yep.
Right, the little arc. Yeah, people will say, yeah, it's trajectory, it's velocity, it's gravity. Yeah, but how do you make it move in the arc?
Right, exactly, and that's obviously trigonometry.
Trigonometry. So you if you only see the part of the arc going up to down, but you don't see it moving up, right? So it's using that trigonometric pattern. And from the Angry Birds perspective, how do you get it to move, to follow that sort of, to speed up and to move down? That's actually where you use a little bit of linear algebra, a little bit of matrices as well.
Yep, differentiation too, if you're into it.
Yeah, so I didn't know the names of this thing. I just knew that I had to use it. I referred to a lot of notes on that. I didn't even know that I was actually doing trigonometry until much later, you know. And I go, oh, that's trick actually. Damn, that's what maths is for, you know.
Okay,
that's what my teacher was trying to tell me.
So I'm going to segue here a little bit into something that's, I feel like it's a somewhat relevant thing, because you're in this very unique position where, because not only did you self-taught and you went through all this process yourself for like programming and stuff like that, right? And the fact that you're an active educator right now, do you think that like the fact that you couldn't immediately catch the links of it, right? Do you think that that is actually a failure in our education system, or is it just purely like you weren't paying attention or something?
Oh, this is gonna get me into a lot of trouble. I think it's a little bit of both. You see, because we follow the very old UK standard, right? It's all about memorizing. It's all about tests. It's all about exams.
Right.
We actually don't do application. The schools don't teach us what is it used for, how is it applied. And those days as compared to nowadays you've got things like game-based learning, right? You've got things like education games, especially game-based learning. If I were to take a video game and I would just apply it in class and I show it, what's the purpose of learning this? For example, Angry Birds. So this is a game. This is where you would actually study trigonometry, and this is how trigonometry is used. I would have been interested on the spot, you know, if my teacher would tell me, if I'm creating a game about shooting a mortar up and landing down and this is how you calculate, my full attention will be in that class. But then again, I don't blame the education system.
Of course.
I think it's just something that we inherited from the British. So I'm going to blame the British. Yeah, but application is something that we don't teach in high school. I mean, that was one, but but to be honest, I think it's entirely on me, right? Because it's me as a student. I wasn't interested. I was interested more in looking out for girls in the class rather than the teacher, right? So,
I mean, in all fairness, I was a bit of a nerd myself when I was in school. So I don't think a lot of the standards usually like what most people would think would be normal applies to me. Yeah, because I from a very young age I was really like I always liked the idea of knowing. I always liked the thrill of being the kid that knew stuff, that kind of thing. So you know that whole meme about like nerds going like actually, that kind of stuff, where you're pressing back your glasses and stuff like that. Yeah, that's me till today. I'm still that kid.
Okay. So the thing was, I was like that as well.
Right.
But in other things like general knowledge, so one of the subjects I really loved was history.
Really?
But I took it one step further. I didn't study the history that was in the textbook. Right. I studied things like the French Revolution. I studied things like World War II, a little bit more in depth on World War II. I studied things like, all those things, right?
Right.
Some of it was in the syllabus, some was not.
Yeah, which is
I liked reading.
Which is really fascinating about how like our education, like in KL and Malaysia and stuff in general, for our history, we aren't taught a lot of this.
Exactly, and I think during your generation it was much worse. During my generation, we studied a little bit about world history.
We did it too. My generation did it too.
Okay. I think they don't really do it now.
Is it? Oh God, that's just so much of a pity. I was never the history kid. I was the math and physics kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hence the nerd part, right?
Yeah. What most people, but I think for me in my case is because a lot of it came very naturally to me. Right. Yeah, because where most people struggle with like probability and stuff, like it came very naturally to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing I possibly attributed to was my ADHD, right? I'm just going to say that I've never been diagnosed.
Right.
I've been suspected of being something like that. I could never pay attention in class. Everything got lost on me within the first 5 minutes, right? And if it didn't interest me, that I just switched off.
Right.
I learned better at my own pace.
Of course, and to be honest, I think that's true for a lot of people as well. Everyone has their unique, learning habits.
Learning style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think I'm more of a visual learner.
So one of the funny things, by the way, like no one can tell, but I'm nodding a lot. Because we all have our cameras off, and like the fact is I am nodding a lot, and I'm very nervous about going in middle of podcast because I don't know whether the mic will pick it up.
All right.
But yes, so if I ever fall silent after Dr. Ike says something like very pertinent, it's most likely because I'm actually nodding. Just for those who, start going like, suddenly it's very quiet. Well, anyways, okay, so segue. Let's return back to the story. So I'm very curious then, because you spent some time clearly, like you didn't start off doing games. You basically self-taught programming, and you have a history in graphics and like visuals and stuff like that. So how did you make the leap into games, and more specifically, like how did you end up like teaching games also? I guess is where the question marks are.
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah, so buckle your seatbelts. We are in for a while, right?
Fascinating.
So along the way, when I was working, I decided to go into education. I did my first lecture. I joined Lim Kok Wei back in. I met with my old lecturer, and she invited me. Say, hey, what are you doing now? So I said, okay, I'm working in post production. I'm looking for any opportunities. So he said, why don't you join Lim Kok Wei as a lecturer? So I said, okay, fine. I went back there. I taught multimedia. So I did that. I did macromedia director. And what happened was, I'm going to get the dates wrong. I think in year 2002, there were a group of 3 British gentlemen that came down from the UK. They came down to the university, and they wanted to work together with the university to start the first games course or at least an official games course in Malaysia, right? And they said that in the next few years, there will be some interest from game studios around the UK and Europe that will come down to Malaysia. So we want to be prepared. And so what happened was, I was lecturing at that time, and the senior management picked my name to go to the UK universities to study games. And the only reason why they chose me to go to the UK was I was the only idiot in the entire department that played games during office hours.
What the hell?
So it was like, okay, who can go and who will be the best person to study games? So then they looked, who is the idiot that plays games the most? My name came out, right? So that's where I actually went to the University of Teesside, and they are actually quite renowned in the Northeast for games development. I went to sit in for all their degree classes. At the same time, I took my master's there in software development.
Oh.
Right. So I studied games. I did study games for about a year and a half. I did higher certificates. So at that point in time, I only had a diploma. So to go into a master's, I had work experience, but I needed to do a higher national diploma. So I actually did another about a year, and then I went to my master's. So I actually did about three and a half years in the UK. So that's where I actually learned a lot of the game development process, and they gave me an entire syllabus to bring back home to Malaysia.
Wow! So this is
that was in. Yep. Sorry.
So you did your masters in the UK during this. I mean, in the process of all of this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I was, I think, 32 at that time. So I was married with a kid. So we all had to we all left move my kid there as well. My wife was stopped working, and she went with me to the UK.
Wow. Was it tough?
So I came. Sorry?
I have to ask then, like, because I can't imagine uplifting your entire family to essentially go back to school.
It wasn't tough per se. It's just that we didn't have any support structure, and we were for the first 6 months of our lives there, we were quite isolated. But after that, we found a few Malaysians, and after that, everything got better. At that point in time, I was still playing games. So I remember playing a lot of time.
Sorry, what was you playing?
Sims.
Oh, the Sims
2.
All right.
Yeah.
So during the time when you were in UK, like, because as I said, like you were with your wife, you had your child at the time as well. So you guys went there. You did your masters during that time. I don't know if this would be too rude, but like, were you guys like effective? Were you guys still working at the time? I guess is the question. Like,
no, I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't. We were quite blessed. My parents said, "Okay, don't worry, we'll step in. We will." My father just opened his own newswire company, and he said, "Okay, we'll support you." But the tuition fee was paid entirely by my university, so it's just the living expenses. Yeah, right. So we were quite fortunate in that sense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah. So then I came back. Then we started the first. Okay, so a little history thing. We weren't the first university to offer games. That accolade belongs to MMU. So MMU started the first. MMU was the first university to incorporate games design inside their computer science degree program. That was in 1999, and it was started by this guy called Hilmi Rahim.
All right, Hilmi, of course.
Hilmi, right? Yeah. So, but it wasn't a full-fledged games course. It was just one or two modules inside a computer science program, if I'm not mistaken. So Lim Kok Wing had the what was the word to use? The privilege of being the first dedicated game diploma in Malaysia, and that started in 2005. So I came back about 2005. Yeah, the course I wrote the course prior to that. And they started 2005, the first dedicated diploma in game art.
Right. So
and that was
just for those of us who are not familiar with the distinction, because I'm not. When you say dedicated like diploma, right? Like how would the distinction mean? Like, do you come in day one into the Institute of Higher Learning and say, hey, I'm going to start as a game student, I'm going to exit as a game student with a diploma in it? That's the distinction.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of the early courses, right, you do, like, for example, and even you see it even today,
right?
Bachelors in computer science with games, bachelors in interactive media with game art. So that means you study the whole range with a little bit of portion, maybe about 20% of the portion in games. When I mean dedicated, when you first come in, you are actually studying all your syllabus within the area of games. So I give you an example, like Asia Pacific University, APU. We run a computer games degree. The first semester, as they come in, they would study things like principles of game art, right? Pixel art. Principles of game design. You study mechanics. You study core gameplay design, core loops. How to make a GDD, a game design document, so on and so forth. You study things like principles of game technology. To understand a little bit about scripting languages, you study history of games, fundamental of game development. So from the very start, you are actually very much into the game ecosystem. So that's what I meant by dedicated games program. Even the nomenclature, the naming nomenclature is a diploma in game art, for example. It's not diploma in design with games. Yeah.
I hear you. All right. Okay, now, thank you very much for the clarification. Please do continue. How did it go from there?
Yeah, so we came back, we started the diploma. That was in year 2005.
Right.
And then I think in 2007, we started the first dedicated game development degree, which was the Bachelor of Arts in Game Art Development, also at Lim Kok Wing. And I have to shout out to two of my other colleagues who helped start the game. One of them was this guy called Kevin. He's now currently working in Utah. And the other guy, Peter Pan. Yeah. You can laugh at the name. His name was really Peter Pan.
I'm smiling.
But he can't fly. it's actually Peter Pan, Pan.
Right.
But yeah, he calls himself Peter Pan. Yeah.
Right.
And both of them were former employees of Game Brains. Game Brains is one of the first turnkey game developer in Malaysia. They started in 1998, if I'm not mistaken, by this guy called Brad Beebe. And Brad actually also became in 1994, he started a company called Creative Talents, which was the first PlayStation developer in Malaysia. Right? So yeah, he's one of the early pioneers. So we Ivan later on joined us 2007 as well. We worked right until 2010, and I think this was covered in the last podcast with Ivan. Maybe if you could show that little picture, right? Yeah.
Let me just pull it up. Give me a second, yeah?
And you can see Peter Pan, right?
Oh, sorry. Give me a second.
Okay.
The photo is not showing up right. Okay, there we go. Give me a second.
Right. So
let me just fade it in. Yep, it's on.
Okay, yeah. So Peter Pan is the guy on the left-hand side, the one standing alone, right? Yeah. I don't think he could fly. Very nice. A man, actually. So in year 2010, the six of us decided to leave the university, and we went around and the main reason why we left is because we wanted to start a real hardcore game development program, right? free from the yokes and the oppressive yokes of education people, right? It meant to work with the industry, work with other universities. We wanted to build an ecosystem. We didn't want a course that will only benefit, or that will only basically bring in profit for the powers that be, right? So we wanted to stick it to the man. But we really wanted to build an ecosystem, right? And the current place that we were in didn't really believe in creating games for the sake of games, right? They wanted to stifle our creativity. So whoever was, if the owner is still here listening to this, too bad, right? So the six of us, we left. And we actually went to a couple of universities and we pitched the idea and said, look, would you want to kickstart a game development program from scratch, and here's the thing, right? So just wanted to name names, right? So if you look at this picture here, the guy, the shortest guy there, that's Basil Akmal. He was the first. No, he wasn't the first. He was the third or fourth chapter coordinator for the International Game Developers Association of Malaysia. So IGDA, I think, started in 2001. Brad Beebe, remember the guy I told you that started GameBrains? He was the first chapter coordinator. I think followed by someone else, and then was Hilmi, and then Bas. So Bas was actually very, very well connected. He's currently working as a head of studio or head of operations for PlayStation Studios Malaysia.
Nice.
He formerly worked for MDEC as well, under the creative team. We have Ivan, of course. We had a guy second to the right. That's Johannes Ruben.
Oh, okay.
Johannes Ruben was one of the first technical artists at GameBrains. So really, really talented technical artist. He worked for Unity and he worked for Virtuos thereafter. Not in the picture was Hilmi. Hilmi also joined us. We also had Michael Uy. Michael Uy was the game designer for one of the first MMORPGs in Malaysia, Feng Wan Online. That was way back in 2005. By Phoenix Game Studio. So we had a bunch of pioneers from the games industry. Yeah. So Peter was former GameBrains. We had former Johannes was also former GameBrains. Sorry, the guy on the far right hand side. He worked in Igloo Digital Arts. He worked on Afro Samurai and Sega All Stars Racing. Nice. So we had a team of, literally, I would call the dream team of games development. And so we approached a couple of universities. Probably I wouldn't have. I shouldn't name them all. One of them was interested. A couple of them weren't. They said, "Yeah, games. There's no future in games. The games industry in Malaysia, there's none. So yeah, sucks to be them." So we were offered actually at one of the universities first, but we decided to take a break and we joined KDU instead, right? So I went into KDU first. I went in as a mass comm lecturer. Went in to teach mass comm, and then my first week there, someone told me that they wanted to start a games course. I was like, what? Then I told them, look, I have a bunch of people willing to come in. And that's where they slowly brought one by one of us in. We met with the vice chancellor. We met with the owner as well. So the late Datuk Teo, lovely man, amazing visionary, and he was sold on the idea, right? And that's where we started. Quite possibly the first specialized game development degree program in Malaysia. So all the while. I'm so sorry if I'm talking so much about this, but all the while, all the degree programs were game art, game design, game technology, right? And this actually lay in different faculties. So game art usually lies in the creative faculty or the design faculty. Game programming or game technology will lie in the IT faculty. And the students would interact with one another. The lecturers also won't interact with one another. Right. At that point in time, we decided to create a game development degree with 3 specializations in 1 degree, right? So you come in your first semester, you study all 3 specializations, which was needed because we wanted artists to actually understand how a designer thinks, how a programmer thinks,
of course,
and vice versa.
Right.
But by the second semester, they specialize.
Right, of course.
Right. So if you're going art, you're going all the way art.
Right.
But in between the years, they would all come back together and work on a game.
Yeah.
Right. So that was, I think, the first specialized game development degree program in Malaysia, and we started in 2012. And at that time, I think we broke all the rules in MQA. So I mean, I wouldn't say we broke the rules. MQA didn't have something like that, and they were like, "Huh? How do we do this?" Right?
Sorry.
MQA stands for the Malaysian Qualifications Agency, and they are the governing body for all university programs. Right? And whenever you have a program, a new diploma, or anything, you have to go and get their approval.
All right. So basically, they have to sign off and say, "Yeah, you're a legitimate diploma or degree or something like that."
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So we did something that didn't exist in any of their standards, and it was amazing that we finally got it approved. And that we really kickstarted an amazing cause. So much so that that's the first amazing thing. The second amazing thing happened a year later. Actually, not really a year later. It was 6 months later. I'm not sure whether you remember this thing during the Prime Minister Najib's time. They had this thing called Pemandu. Yes,
I remembered it. It was an initiative that I can't remember what exactly was it about. Like, I remember it being spoken about a lot, but it's been so long.
Yeah. So they had this initiative where they call it the Economic Transformation Program, which was to make Malaysia high income, sustainable, and I can't remember the third one, but it was basically to build up Malaysia as a high income nation and also to be sustainable, right? And they had it was predominantly, there were 2 things we called the National Key Economic Area, the NKEAs. They also had a GTP, a Government Transformation Program, which is pushed the government and the public sectors. But the ETP, which is the Economic Transformation Program, was to push the private sector.
Right.
And they had multiple areas, so everything from oil and gas. They wanted to push up on manufacturing, so on and so forth. And one of the areas was in education. So they approached out of the blue. I don't know why they did that. They approached KDU at that time, and they asked, would you want to start a national initiative on games development?
Fascinating. I didn't even know this was a thing.
Right. So then we said and I managed to so I spearheaded that. We together with Codemasters at that time. Codemasters already in. We worked with Codemasters very, very, very closely. In fact, they endorsed our program. Codemasters, 2 of Codemasters people came with me to present to the Deputy Prime Minister, and we kickstarted this initiative called MYGAMEDEV, or Malaysia Game Development.
Right.
And it was a collaboration between all the universities that offer games, all the industry partners, and the government agencies. And its main role was to build up visibility, build up branding for games development, as well as to help universities kickstart their games development program. And I think together with MDEC, I mean MDEC actually started the whole game ecosystem in Malaysia, but this one helped to create awareness at secondary school level and the talent pipeline. So it was quite amazing. Stroke of luck, actually. That's how we managed to grow the ecosystem as well. And that's how I got into games, by the way.
I do want to ask a little bit more on that one then. In that, well, I guess there's 2 main questions I suppose I want to ask, but let me just go a little bit more on the Pemandu side of things first, right? Because you mentioned like the talent pipeline starting from a younger age, pre-university, pre-tertiary education, effectively, right?
Secondary.
So you start from secondary, right? Or is it pre-secondary as well? So you start from secondary, right?
Secondary, yeah.
So I guess the question then becomes is like how did you what steps were there taken to like sort of seed this part of things?
Okay, so one of the things, one of the initiatives I because we were actually effectively parked under the Prime Minister's department, but we reported and we got all our fundings from the Ministry of Higher Education. At that time, it was the Ministry of Education, if I'm not mistaken, where higher education and education was combined. So the secondary schools and the primary schools together with tertiary education. And I did a paper to present to them. I said, look, games development cannot get their talent only from universities. We shouldn't look at universities themselves, because universities is where they already chosen their direct path where they wanted to study, right? I said one of the best, most effective way to guarantee a flow of talents into the ecosystem is to target at secondary schools. So there was two major initiatives that we did. One of them was to target the school counselors. So each secondary school has a certain amount of school counselors, and the school counselors would actually be the ones that would encourage the students based on their preference and based on their affinity to go which courses, right? As well as to run activities, workshops for the schools, so on and so forth. Talks for the schools, so there's no way we could actually go and teach or tell the schools about game development if the school counselors were not on board.
Right.
So what we did was this: we got all the school counselors to come, and it was an instruction. We managed to get an instruction from the Ministry of Education, so they cannot resist. They have to come. We did it one in KDU, and another time we did it in Utah. So we got a whole bunch of school counselors to come, and it was in Klang Valley. We had about 200 school counselors from 200 schools. We brought them. We spoke about what games is, the ecosystem of game development. We told them about the career prospects, and we brought them to the game studios around Malaysia.
Wow.
So we actually brought them to Codemaster Studios at that point in time. And when they reached, I remember this, right? The teachers were all walking about in the studio, and they were like, oh my God, this is what games developers do? This is actually like engineering, or this is like doing an AutoCAD, This is amazing, right? So then they went back to the schools, and after that, about 3 or 4 months later, we had requests from schools to go in to conduct workshops and to conduct talks. So this was the first initiative. The second initiative, we did this thing called tabletop games. A competition, right? So what we did was we got all the secondary schools together, right? They came over for a weekend, and we literally raided Mr. DIY. We bought all the knickknacks and everything, every single item. And we spread it out on tables. The students came in, they could take anything they want, and within 2 days, they should create a board game, right? And during that time, we will actually shared with them what's the entire ecosystem of games, what the career path, what is game design. So it was basically to expose them to what games is. And it's not just video games, but board games, because that's where you learn mechanics.
Right, of course.
Yeah, and one of the things we did was this. We told them that, we gave a very big prize pool. I think, for the life of me, I can't remember now. I think it was about 3,000 or 4,000 ringgit for the first place. I think it was more than that. It was about 5,000 ringgit for first place, right?
And for context, like for a student, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. So we gave them prize money. We gave them a trophy. And we also said this: whoever teacher that accompanied them along for the 2 days, right, on the weekend, if your kids win, the teachers will get some money as well. And that is where the teachers went, wow, they all accompanied the students, and they were so active in teaching the students what to do and everything. We ran it for about from 2013 right up to 2018. We did it in Klang Valley, we did it in Perak, we did it in Sarawak, we did it in Malacca, and we got other universities to get involved. And it was really successful. We garnered a lot of interest. A lot of kids who never wanted to study games actually found out that, hey, this is what you do. There is an industry here, and that's how we created the talent pipeline. But sadly, the whole Pemandu initiative closed in 2018 because of the general election.
Right.
When they lost the election, Pemandu automatically shut down as well. So we had to also shut down.
Can I ask then? So there was, so I do have a second question about that. Like, we'll continue with the Pemandu story a little bit more. I do have plenty of questions and follow-ups for that. But one quick follow-up I do want to have is about when you first started the course in 2005. Because right now, I can only speak for at least my experiences here, having been part of the games industry here in Singapore. But like there's a lot of graduates that come out of DigiPen here, and then there's also like Republic Polytechnic and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of the high institutes of higher learning here within Singapore as well. DigiPen is the most notable. I've worked a lot more with a lot of the graduates there, but one of the big notable things is that DigiPen does very much have a lot of their graduates, right? Like basically essentially learn Unity. I'm not saying they didn't learn anything else. I am saying that they do pick up Unity as part of like a big part of their entire coursework and stuff like that. When you started the course in 2005, right, was Unity any part of that story? What did you teach them in terms of like engine wise, or how did students actually build their games and stuff like that? I'm very curious about that.
Yeah. So in 2005, Flash was still part of. It was still going on, and that was, I think, Congregate actually had that as well.
Of course.
So we taught Flash, we taught Unreal as well. Unreal, I can't remember which version was this. And those days we had XNA. XNA was for Microsoft Xbox.
Ooh.
Yeah. So yeah, those. I remembered our first group of graduates. They were actually trained in XNA.
Wow.
Yeah. So Unity wasn't around at the time.
Unity wasn't even in the picture.
I'm not sure whether it was in the picture, but it was definitely not in the picture in Malaysia.
Right.
At least at a tertiary level.
Right. Did you? But okay. So correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but it's somewhere during your tenure with KDU as well. Unity eventually became a part of the picture.
Yes. Correct. Yeah. So Unity, when we were around in KDU, we were already teaching Unity.
Oh, okay. So by the time you guys started in KDU, you guys started Unity as well.
Yeah, because Unity, I think, came out at the same time when we started the program in 2005. So it didn't come down to Malaysia yet, lah. So that was, I think, the initial release. I'm not sure when it really started to launch. I think it was 2009, 2008, 2009. Yeah. So I think by the time we left, okay, I'm just trying to get the whole timeline. I think by the time we went to KDU, I think it was Unity 3.
Oh.
And it was a little bit more stable at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm quite sure. Like, I'm always happy to have people correct us in the comments, because as far as I'm concerned, that's always great engagement.
Yep. So we, for the early part, we will teach them Flash. Flash will be a very good avenue for them to learn very basic scripting. ActionScript 3.0, at least. And those days, there were people doing Flash games, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But bear in mind, game art was actually only art, so we didn't really needed to use Unity at that point. We dealt mostly with 3D Studio Max. Yep. It was only the KDU one was because we had game programming, game design, and game tech. That's why Unity came to the forefront.
Right.
XNA was used predominantly for prototyping.
Oh, only for prototyping.
Yeah, I mean, to actually put a game lah, because to put into an actual engine, right? And of course, Unreal also was for world building at the time as well.
Well, okay, so let's fast forward a little bit more to the end of like 2018, like as you were saying, like your time with Pemandu and all that, right?
Yeah.
So, it's fascinating because obviously for me, when I was coming out of like secondary school and I was going to pick up like make a choice, my own tertiary, like, choices and stuff like that, games was not a choice at all, right? So I
Oh
went,
dear.
yeah, like games development wasn't even a
Okay,
choice.
yeah. Okay, all right.
So but to be fair, I wasn't looking at Lim Kok Wing very seriously at the time.
I think at that time no one looks at Lim Kok Wing very seriously.
Well,
Please don't sue me, yeah.
right. I given the state Lim Kok Wing is right now, I don't know whether they're desperate enough to start suing you. Oh God, we're not making friends with Lim Kok Wing today.
Yeah, we're not making friends with
I'm
that. It's
sorry,
okay.
man. But yeah, because what happened was that I am a graduate of the One Academy, so I'm just gonna put it out there.
Okay.
Yeah. At the time, I was really into I don't know. I had a bunch of friends who had like art backgrounds and stuff like that at the time. I was kind of getting into the scene and stuff, and I sort of sort of stumbled my way into into an animation diploma. The idea of being able to draw was always very fascinating to me, and
Right.
all cards on the table. I graduated. In my honest opinion, I graduated bottom of my class. I am seriously, that is my self opinion of myself. Right. But I will honestly tell you this: the One Academy standards are so high that even if you graduate bottom of your class, you're probably still better than a lot of people out there.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? Because I've seen people who graduated from other places that I'm like, how is this a passing grade?
So here's a interesting fact, right? I actually wanted to join One Academy.
Really?
Yeah, in those days, One Academy, they were in Jaya, Section 14, still in a shop lot. I think they were in their first year of operations, and I wanted to join. And One Academy, I was like One Academy, and a couple of my friends were inside there as well, and I was like, wow, I would love to join that. I mean, I saw their artwork and I went like, amazing. And of course, they were in PJ itself, so at least, traveling. I stayed in Section 14 and campus, I mean, the One Academy was Section 14, so I was thinking that that's going to be awesome, right? And of course, Jaya was the central point for all the Sri Aman girls and everything, so I thought it was an added advantage as well. But my parents, in their infinite wisdom, they saw Lim Kok Wing. He's a maestro. He's amazing, and I mean, to be honest, I mean, he was an advertising genius, right?
Right.
So they said, why don't you go to Lim Kok Wing? So I mean, best to study under an advertising genius, and go into something not just on drawing and animation, but perhaps maybe you can go into advertising. So. They decided to send me there. And at that time, I think Lim Kok Wing had a huge KL campus with grounds, and he was marketing it as top-notch premier advertising and creative arts institute. Yeah, so that's how I ended up in Lim Kok Wing, which took me about 3 minibuses to get there.
Wow.
And
I think
I would have loved to study at One Academy. Actually, I was so tempted to say no and say I wanted to study this because I told you, right, I wanted to study 3D. 3D was what I wanted to do, right? Yeah.
Fascinating.
So anyway, that's no regrets in life.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there is some, but anyways.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, that's not. But the One Academy, all cards on the table for me myself. I've while I was studying, and keep in mind things may have changed for these institutions over the years. While I was there, and I've also interacted in my time like people from Lim Kok Wing and all that. Like a large takeaway that I've always had was that people from the One Academy comes out. They tend to come out more technically impressive. You know how to,
from an art sense, yes,
really from an art sense. Like they will take you from being absolutely hardly able to draw a circle to being able to draw a pretty decent circle. That kind of thing. You come out technically pretty decent. But Lim Kok Wing is a place that ultimately that really leveraged on is it Tan Sri? It was Tan Sri, right? Tan Sri Datuk Lim Kok Wing.
Yeah.
Right. His full
Well,
title.
when I joined, it was Dato. Yeah, only much later he became a Tan Sri.
Right. So his full title at the end of the day was Tan Sri Datuk Lim Kok Wing.
Yeah.
He leveraged very well. He taught what he knew, and a lot of people that I interacted with that came out of Lim Kok Wing, they tend to be pretty good salesmen. They're creative salesmen.
AKA bullshitters, is it? Which is correct.
Not.
I mean, they were very confident. They knew how to talk. They knew how to present themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
They knew how to sell
this
an
is
idea.
something. Yeah, and yeah, I've been talking a lot about Lim Kok Wing and KDU, so I must give credit to also to my current place of work as well. So it's a shameless plug. But
of course.
It's the same thing as well for Asia Pacific University APU now. We recognize that technical skills is important.
Yeah.
But I think the most important part is the soft skills. Is to train the kids, train your talents to be confident. That's why for us, we actually do a lot of competitions and exposure to the industry, and that's what happened in Lim Kok Wing. They actually brought a lot of industry partners, but this was only for the creative side. Yeah. So
fascinating. But okay. So, anyways, let's come back to our timeline, I guess, because we had a couple of segues from there. Let's come back and we talk about the years after Pemandu, right? So
okay.
So what happened from there? Because I'm really fascinated to know. I'm very curious to know, like you said, with Pemandu, the end of Pemandu, right? Like, did the initiatives just completely die off? I would imagine the teachers would still try and look for you.
Yeah, so we did what we could. At that point in time, what I did was I reached out to a friend who connected me to oh dear, I forgot her name.
Oh no.
Tioni Ching.
Right.
Tioni Ching, YB Tioni Ching. And she was Mohi at the time. And what I did was we managed to kickstart something similar to the Pemandu initiative, and we called it the Game Development Council of Malaysia, GDCOM.
Oh, okay.
And it was the same thing. We wanted to bring a bunch of universities together to work with the industry in order to build the talent ecosystem. And we managed to get a couple of initiatives running, high level, and then the government fell again.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So at that point in time, I was like, "Oh shit,"
But Joe, what's this again?
I did the Pemandu one that lasted quite a while. This one lasted less than a year. Right. I was like, "Oh my god," right. and then after that, COVID hit. So yeah. So after that, that's another story for another time, I suppose. Yeah, but we are having other initiatives running. I think so I left KDU in 2022 and joined Asia Pacific University. APU actually had a games program that started in 2009, but I decided to come in and see if I could revise it. We came in. I did a specialized degree program similar to what I did in UOW, but with all the mistakes which I did in UOW, I just basically corrected in AP. And what we did was I changed it. In fact, I was thinking to myself, I don't need an initiative running at ministerial level. I don't need an initiative running at a government agency level. What I just need to do was to actually start something at APU that will bring the ecosystem together. And that's where last year we actually started something called the Great Game Week, GGW. Right. And I heard this story many years ago about the animation industry, how one university in the UK got a bunch of their students to showcase some of the animation works.
Right.
And they call it Animation Day.
Right.
And it grew into a massive thing called Animation Days, right? And and it became a community ecosystem-driven, community-driven event space.
Right.
So yeah, that was my dream as well. So I got our APU game development students to say, okay, guys, why don't you organize a great game week, a 3-day program, where you call all the games companies to come, and you do the calling, you organize it, because you are going to be the ones driving them, right? I want you to interact with the industry because I want them to know who you are.
Right.
It shouldn't be for me, right? So they did an awesome job. They contacted all the game studios, invited them to do portfolio review, and then they did something interesting. They connected with the other universities students as well. So the first one we did, we had a lot of other university students that came for the portfolio reviews, came for the competitions.
Right.
And we did one this year as well. Also invited some of the other universities. So I wanted them to say that, look, it shouldn't be only APU alone. Let's build a ecosystem. It's not about who gets a bigger share of the pie, but how can the pie grow bigger so that all universities can share and gain from it. That's number one. Number two, I think the most important thing is, how do we as a collective institution, 5 or 6 education institutions, come together and build together and grow together to build as many talents as possible. Because end of the day, 1 or 2 universities is not enough to supply the entire region with game developers, right? And game talents. We need, if Malaysia is to grow, to be a leading game hub, the education institutions all have to come together and say, look, we're going to produce a hell of a lot of talents, and not only talents, but good talents in order to feed the company, right? Because so a lot of people don't know this. Malaysia is home to about 12 international studios and over 85 game studios. We have a lot of potential, and as compared with the other Southeast Asian regions, I think we have the most international. So I'm going to say this: we have more than Singapore.
Go ahead, man. It's fine.
Yeah. So I'm just going to name a few. So for all the listeners out there, by the way, Electronic Arts is in Malaysia. Right, EA, Electronic Arts is in Malaysia. They bought over Codemaster Studios, so the EA and Code. Double 11, a UK's game studio, is in Malaysia, and they are responsible for Prison Architect, Goat Simulator, and Rust. We have Larian Studios. Larian Studios did Baldur's Gate 3, and they're working on something else now. So Larian Studios is a Belgian games company. We have Streamline Studios, a US company that worked on Street Fighter 5 as well as we have Bandai Namco in Malaysia. Bandai Namco is old Singapore, by the way, but Malaysia is doing mostly of the art. We have PlayStation Studios. We have Virtua Studios. We have General Arcade from Russia. We have Limheim Studios, also from Russia. So we have
funny story funny story on General Arcade. General Arcade used to be in Singapore.
Yes. There's also one more studio called Winking Studios as well. Yes, that's starting up here as well. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a mention of that because I actually met Janadi when he was here in Singapore.
Right. Any idea why they left Singapore?
It's a cost thing. He told me straight up.
Yeah. So I think it's not. It may not only be predominantly a cost thing.
No, it's not.
It's also the accessibility to talents.
Yes. So there are some pros and cons depending on what you're looking for and the type of talents you're looking for. I think Singapore has a unique benefit in its own way in terms of like things like there's some infrastructure in Singapore there's definitely better.
Standard of living, incredible.
No, I would argue
cost of living. No.
So I would
cost of living probably no. Yeah.
Okay. So on those 2 points, I would argue, and I'm going to peg this part here because this is definitely going to be a massive segue, right? Because standard of living, I would argue, keyword here asterisk, massive asterisk here. I'll argue depending on what you're looking for. Malaysia is on par. KL specifically, KL is on par with Singapore. Depending on what you're looking for.
Correct. But we are talking about international studios coming down. Yeah, so international studios start coming down with their some of their key people coming down. Maybe about a dozen or 2 dozen.
Right. So
they are. I think they will be slightly more accustomed to that level. Malaysia have better food. I'm going to start the war now.
No, you're absolutely. I'm not even going to fight that one, man. Like, I will honestly tell you that the Singaporean palate is a different palate.
Yeah.
And if you can disagree on whether you think the food tastes better or not, you'd be wrong. But you're free to disagree with it because your palate is something that you train, over time.
Right.
Yeah?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But I should probably you made a very important point there, which is if you're from a Western country, in a place where you might not be so comfortable with a slightly more rough edge Southeast Asian experience kind of thing, Singapore is a very safe place to be.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So for foreign direct investors, they will prefer that.
Correct.
But the problem is this. So I'm going to do a disclaimer of it.
Right.
I might be wrong on this.
Yep.
Okay. So Singaporean government, if you're listening to me, but that's the main reason why I think that companies such as Ubisoft has also decided to go to the Philippines as well. Because put it this way, to get a talent in from Indonesia or from Malaysia, the visa application, I think you need work permit. There is a minimum amount, right?
Yeah.
It probably doesn't make sense to pay so high. In Singapore, I might as well set up in Malaysia where the cost is a whole lot friendlier. So I think from a talent perspective, that's where Malaysia wins.
Right. So it's interesting that you should bring that up. I think that's definitely a more recent thing when it came to Singapore. Singapore, in more recent years, have sort of raised the barrier to enter.
Yes, I think 2005, around that range of 2015, 2016.
No, it's even worse now in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So where I was getting at.
Sorry.
So the point that you brought up is actually very pertinent in so many ways, because what happens is that if you want regional talent, the keyword here being regional talent, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, if you I set up shop in Malaysia, and I want talent from Singapore, from Thailand, from Indonesia, from Philippines to come and work for my studio, right? It is definitely easier, right, to get that talent into Malaysia and work there, on a visa or anything else, than to do it in Singapore. Even if you, let's say, for example, even if you take away the difference in dollar, right? The restrictions that Singapore imposes on you to get foreign talent into your studio is probably higher in Singapore than it would be in, say, Malaysia or any other Southeast Asian country.
So here's a little trivia, right? PlayStation Studios, when they were looking to set up a studio office in Southeast Asia, they actually went down to Singapore.
Right.
And they were looking at Singapore, and I'm not going to mention any names.
Right.
But what happened was they met someone in Singapore who happened to be a Malaysian, and that person said, "Why don't you consider Malaysia?"
Right.
And they were like, "What's Malaysia?" so then the person actually got in touch with me, and at that point in time, we were in Pemandu, so we linked up with Pemandu. Right. I got InvestKL involved, we got MDEC involved, and that's where they came down to Malaysia. We brought them around. MDEC brought them around as well, and that's where we showcased the entire ecosystem here, and we learned. Actually, Malaysia learned a lot from Singapore,
of course,
because prior to Codemaster Studios coming to Malaysia, Ubisoft was exploring both Malaysia and Singapore.
Right.
And they went to Singapore because the Singaporean government gave them a whole lot of incentives and benefits that Malaysia could not match. Singapore had a one-stop center which handled everything, right?
Right.
So we learned from that. I mean, we lost Ubisoft to Singapore.
Right.
But we managed to get Codemasters into Malaysia, and thereafter that's where the ecosystem, and thanks to this one I must credit MDEC and Hasnol, who is now the senior director for PlayStation Studios. He did a lot to ensure that we became an interesting and easier way of bringing studios into Malaysia. So we learned our lesson, and with PlayStation Studios, we gave them the whole list of why Malaysia. We couldn't match Singaporean infrastructure, but we said that, look, we have all the talents here, and the universities that offer these talents, we have X amount, right? Right. So yeah, that was one of the pitch that we did.
Right. Well, it's fascinating because I think I've been in Singapore for the last 5 to 10 years, and a lot of the action has definitely happened outside of Singapore in the last 5 to 10 years. PlayStation being one of it, obviously, and even Larian being the big one as well. You know, the fact that these two giant, essentially like big. If you're into games, it's impossible for you not to know these two studios. You know, and a lot of them have set root in Malaysia itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm sorry. Like, that's obviously, as I mentioned, like that is a massive segue. I do want to ask then, like, your time with APU. You mentioned just now in brief that there were some regrets. There's some stuff that you wanted to do differently, some mistakes that you did in the past. Are there any notable ones that you feel like you can bring up and you could highlight, at least to give some perspective of like how your past experiences sort of like taught you like things should be done differently?
I think I will probably refrain from saying that, because if I were to say that, then I would actually name certain things that or say certain things that I should not say. But quite possibly, I mean, every iteration of a program allows us to do things which are a little bit better than the previous one. So with APU, what we did was actually to incorporate a little bit more on their projects to work together. So one of the things to make really a successful model for game development talents, to have as many group projects as possible where we actually simulate a real life and studio environment.
Real life studio
environment. So yeah, you put 3 artists, you put 4 programmers, and you tell them to make a game, right? And with the APU syllabus, we managed to put a little bit more onto that. We didn't offer game design because Malaysia is actually more of an art capital, which is growing more into a programming development side. But for game design, I don't think there are many positions as compared to art and design, art and technology. So sorry.
Basically, I think the production of art and as well as the programming side of things, right? These two extremes.
So with APU, so what I did was I actually sat down. I contacted Larian Studios, and we were very blessed to actually have Sven Vigne himself, the CEO and founder of Larian Studios, who came down, sat down with me, went through my entire proposal, and started ticking boxes and said, no, you shouldn't do this, you should do that. And one of the things he did, he said this: can you start teaching your students C++ from the very start? Forget about Unity, right? Because forget about C#. Teach them C++. If you know C++, it's very easy to go into C#. If you know C#, it's going to be harder for you to go into C++. So we actually changed our entire syllabus to be more C++ centric. And C++ is a very powerful language. It allows us to do optimization very easily as well. So I mean, that was one of the regrets. We wanted to, in the previous place, we decided to go very much language agnostic, right? And go into more engine. With APU one, it's more language specific, right? Which is C++, right? So we sat down with Sven. I also had the pleasure. I contacted the founder of Passion Republic as well,
right?
And he managed to get his artists and programmers to sit down with us as well. I met with the general manager of Virtual Studios, and he sat down and told us what he needed for game artists to excel in his studio. And of course, I met with Codemaster Studios as well, and all four studios actually gave a lot of input. So I think that was a different than what we did, than what I did previously, right? This is very much onto the industry feedback from a very early stage, and onto how our syllabus should be and what is missing and everything. Yeah.
Right. So I think it's worth noting, because having hear you share as much as you have, I think it does seem like, at least through your journey, the syllabus has, like, strictly speaking, has been sort of can be roughly separated into three phases. One of it was the first time when you brought it in from the UK. That was when you were given the syllables and you brought it back here to be taught through Lim Kok Wing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
There was phase. Then there was a second stage where you, Ivan, and Baz, and a bunch of you guys, like, developed based on your experiences in the industry as well at the time, and then actively said, hey, this is going to be the new syllables while you're working with KDU, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, there's now, which is taking all of that experience in the past, and then using that as a foundation to go out and talk to all the industry players and say, hey, what do you need from our graduates?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's what we did in KDU as well.
Right.
But for now, I think it's more of, because the industry is so much more matured and things have evolved so much. We actually managed to approach a whole lot more of the industry. And those days, we only managed to talk to only Codemasters, right? Over the years, we have grown. So Ivan is with Ivan has joined when he left KDU. He joined MDEC as head of incubator, and with that he had massive amount of connections. All the game studios. When I started the Commando initiative, I dealt with a lot of game studios. So now in APU, we could bring our entire wealth of connections and to actually reach out to the top level people to say, hey, look, what do you need for talent? So they gave huge feedback.
Of course.
And again, similarly with KDU, when I joined APU, so we did a massive change that has never been done before. We took the existing games program and we changed 90% of the entire syllabus to what it is today. The regulatory body was also scratching their head and saying, that's something unprecedented. Yeah, but we went like, okay, we've done that before. We also shared with them the specialization and said, no, precedence has been set, therefore we can do it. Never been done before. So that's something quite interesting. So if you and rightly so, it's an evolutionary thing. So the first one was when we learned from a UK university. Second one, through our collective experience, and I think this is a third time where it's a little bit more industry centric with very, very much the pioneers like Sven. I mean, Sven and Baldur's Gate and Divinity. He's carved out and he's a hardcore developer himself, right? So yeah, it's not about competition anymore. We work very closely with KDU, or rather they're known as UOW now. As mentioned, it's not about competition. It's not who has a bigger slice of the pie. It's how can we grow the pie and work collectively together. So our students are very active. They have approached a lot of universities in order to work together and say, look, let's not, it's not about you're in this university, I'm in this university. Let's work together and see how can we, because at the end of the day, these guys, when they join studios, they're going to work together.
Right.
They're going to be colleagues one day. So you have to understand how different people work, different cultures work, different methods of doing different universities work. So that's my philosophy. Yeah.
Oh, that's definitely a very I definitely I dare to say that that's definitely a very mature way of looking at it and very holistic way of looking at it actually.
Yeah, and this will probably be my last foray onto education. Retire. So, yeah.
Really?
So.
Okay.
So yeah, I managed to. So the lovely part is Ivan has joined APU as well. So I've got someone who has been journeying with me all the way from Lim Kok Weng right up to APU today.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I do have a few questions off the top of my head I do want to get a little bit deeper into, if you don't mind. But for those who've been listening with us, if you guys have any question for Dr. Ike.
Not really there yet.
God, the slip up finally happened. Anyway, yes. If anyone has any questions for Dr. Ike, please feel free to leave them in the comments. In the chat or there's a link inside the description below. Please feel free to leave it in there. I'll slide it in and get to it as we can get to. Keep in mind, not all questions be answered. I will also be automatically filtering any inappropriate questions. Though feel free to just try your luck and ask, and if anything feels off, we'll clearly reserve the right to not answer. Right? So it's like if you start asking us weird questions like, oh, for example, what is the length of our nostril hair, I would not be able to give you an answer, and therefore will probably politely reject.
I will probably answer.
Fascinating. So yes. So Dr. Ike, I do want to ask then, this is going to be a bit of a weird question, but I do think it's sort of pertinent for someone like you who's been in education for so long, because you started in 2005, and that's at least 20 years in there, right?
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated to ask you, what do you think is okay, I suppose I need to figure out how to frame this question a little bit, because I think the real question at the end of the day is I've had a lot of conversations with people where they have problems with graduates, people who are there just to follow instructions and say oh yeah, produce this or produce that, that kind of thing, or hey, make this to this specific set of instructions that I do have. And there are a number of people who, despite graduating from what essentially are creative industries and stuff like that, who do not necessarily able to find ways of expressing themselves or find ways to do the work in a more, for lack of a better way of phrasing this, a more creative fashion. To them, it's about following the instructions and everything that's been taught in schools and all that kind of stuff. Is that something that you see in game students as well? Is it something that, and how do you combat this if it is something that you see?
I think I see that with various degrees of students. So how do I combat that? I mean, so as I mentioned just now, we actually had 3 studios, 3 studio projects or group projects, right? So I always like to share this anecdote. So it's like this. Imagine the first group project. You get to choose who you work with,
right?
But you don't get to choose what you do,
right?
So if I get a group of students who are all lovers of first-person shooter and simulation games, I'm going to throw you a puzzle game. Right. Because when you work in industry, you have no say of what the studios are doing, right? You just do what you have to do.
Right.
So that's for the first one. The second project, you get to do what you want to do. You can do anything you want to do.
Right.
But you don't get to choose who you do it with.
Right.
So I'm going to purposely put in people that can't get along with each other, and you learn how to work. You're going to work on a passion game, but you don't get to choose. You get the people that annoys you the most, because that's what's going to happen in studios. You don't get to choose who you work with. Right? So only at the third studio project, you get to choose who you work with, and you get to choose what you get to do. And we have two types of projects on that. So at that point in time, that's where we actually encourage them to explore and go beyond what they can do. So we try as much to get our students involved in as many game jams as possible, because game jams are basically this 72-hour or 42-hour sort of game development competitions-ish sort of thing, where you're given a team on a Friday and you have to work and create a game as fast as you can, right? And that's the best way to teach creativity. That's the best way to teach problem-solving skills, idea generation skills. Yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is that like it's purely through game jams as a means of exposure for them to like get out of the whole "I need instructions to do stuff" kind of thing.
It's not only game jams is for them to actually put to test what they learn in their modules. In our modules itself, we actually from a very early stage. So what I do is one of the modules I teach is game development fundamentals, right? And I encourage them to think, do a reflection of why they chose the course. You know, why do they want to be a game developer? So it's not about me telling them what they should do, but them telling me why are they choosing a specific route. So we are trying to teach them to be thinkers rather than just mere doers. And it's a philosophy that APU does really, really well. It's all about the soft skills. It's all about so like I mentioned also, like the Great Game Week. It's not the lecturers who are doing it. Calling companies, you know, for people like Ivan and myself to call out companies is very easy, because we know the at least the senior level management. But we tell the students, look, this is your event. You call up all these companies, right? So they have to learn how to navigate through who to ask, how to negotiate, how to bring them in, and they've done an awesome job. And this is something that we also do as a module in APU as well. All students have to arrange for industry talk, and they have to contact the industry themselves and to call the industry in. Which it's nice, but sometimes it gives us a scare, right? Because some students, right, they have actually called up CEOs of huge corporations, CEO of Maybank, for example, they've called, and suddenly you have a huge CEO of Maybank coming to APU, and we go like, what? What's he doing here? And the student, I invited him.
Don't they run the list with you guys first, or like...
No? So we give them full autonomy.
Oh shit.
Full autonomy, and we have gotten some really big shots coming over, some YBs coming over, and we're like, oh, what's he doing here? Students say, we called them, and the beautiful part is these big shots, right? Because the student is calling them, they listen more, rather than if a lecturer or if the university calls them, they go like, no. But this is like a 19-year-old guy just sending him an email and just like, with all his innocence, calling him to come. Okay, I'll come, right? So this is how we train them to solve problems and go through, navigate difficulties and plan and everything.
That is fascinating. So I do apologize. I did like my summation just now was a bit reductive. But it does sound like, at least even from the course level, as you mentioned it, like even just basically from the course level, you are placing them in places where they can't just follow instructions. They're never put in a place where they just follow instructions and you can just be done with it, kind of thing. It's very actively, you're putting it in places where you have to be an active participant. You have to
think.
Yeah, you have to actually make choices and just think and go through it. It's not just, hey, follow the coursework and get your degree kind of thing.
Yeah. I just had this conversation with a student just this morning as well. He was saying that, why are we doing? Why is a lecturer just not telling us what to do? Right. And asking us to explore. And this is from a computer science program. I say, why is the lecturer not? I said, at the end of the day, we can tell you what we can do. That's not a problem. We can tell you, we can show you everything, but we want you to be thinkers, because at the end of the day, if you're studying a diploma is more operations based, but a degree is to train you to be managers, is to train you to be leads, is to train you to be the thinkers of an organization. And organizations value problem solvers more so than problem makers themselves, right? I very early on in my career, I had this boss who told me this: please don't come with me with problems. Right? Just don't come with me with problems alone. If you want to come and see me, it's okay for you to come with me with a problem, but come up with 3 solutions that you think that can help solve the problem. Because then I can look at your solutions and I will know, and I'll tell you what works and what doesn't work.
Of course.
If you come to me with just mere problems alone, why the hell am I going to hire you? I won't hire you. I'd rather hire someone else who would come with me for solutions. So don't tell me your problems, tell me your solution. So I shared this exact same thing this morning, and the students are, oh, makes sense. They say, yeah, so we are not telling you to learn yourself. We're telling you to explore yourself, find the problems and find the solutions, and we can guide you and show you and teach you what works and what doesn't. But you did your part. Rather than just us regurgitating information to you, we want you to take an active role in your learning.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask then sort of a related question that's a little closer to home, because I myself, like throughout my entire career, I've mostly been self-taught, but unfortunately, I've not had the privilege of being able to pick up programming on my own. So if anything, I'm largely a designer, a pure designer. And as you have mentioned it yourself, like pure design roles are really, really hard to come by. But having said that, I've also been in a very weird position where conversations regarding like familiarity with game design or game design philosophies doesn't seem to be that well ingrained in graduates. Is that a similar thing for you? Is that is that something you see as well, or is it just something that like maybe it's just a weird like exposure I have, or people maybe are just being extra nice to me? I don't know.
What do you mean by game design philosophies?
So basically,
mechanics.
Let's say, yeah. I think that would be the best way of describing it. Like, say for example, right? Like, and this is coming from my own experience as well. Like, so many graduates. Keep in mind, what I'm going to share is basically saying that there are many who do this, but which is why I appreciate those who don't. Where if you ask them stuff like, say for example, oh, why do you propose this mechanic, or why do you propose this gameplay, that kind of thing, and their answer would be like stuff like, oh, because I think it's fun.
Yeah. So there are two. I'm going to approach it from 2 points of view. Probably both will get me a lot of hate mails later on, or get me cancelled.
Your email's not in the contact list anyway, so you'll be fine.
So now, the number one thing is, I think in terms of dedicated games design courses, there aren't that many in Malaysia.
Right, there isn't.
Right, so there isn't. The problem I face is this: there are a lot of institutions and universities which has a program which they incorporate game design.
Right.
And it's not a formal way of teaching game design. The main problem is the person who's taught game design or is teaching game design has never done game design before. So if the person who has crafted the module has never worked in game design, has never done any research in game design, who has never done anything meaningful in game design, and is teaching a game design, how do you expect the students to be able to articulate that level of game design when they go and work?
Right.
because games design is something that you can pick it up, right? You can read lots of books to understand the theory behind certain things.
Of course.
But the practice is something that you need to actually have done, or at least have some exposure in. Right. So hence that sort of I always believe in the philosophy that if you're gonna learn Kung Fu, learn from a grandmaster with 100 years of experience and long hair like the Pai Mei guy in Kill Bill, right? You don't learn from a yellow belt instructor.
Right, of course.
So it's the same thing applies as well.
Right.
So probably the students that can't articulate, number one, they have not been paying attention in class, or number two, they haven't been given enough lessons, enough insights, enough in-depth understanding of what game design really is. Right. And I actually face a problem as well, because a lot of people, when they talk about game design, they actually talk about game development. Game design is about, for them, game design is about art, tech, and design.
Right.
It's not about the mechanics, rules, balance, game design documentation, core loops, so on and so forth. They don't teach that. It's all about how to develop a game.
Right. So it's about the methodology of production rather than the theoretical and the understanding of behavior and things like that.
Exactly.
Right.
And I also listened. I heard this on the podcast with Ivan as well.
Oh, really?
The area of psychology, we don't really go into user behavior psychology, because that's a whole new study by itself.
Right.
Okay. So that's also the main reason why we don't really want to. Well, not for this course. We may want to go into another course which goes into a little bit more hardcore game design. The other big challenge in Malaysia is we don't have really good narrative designers.
Really?
We don't. There were some companies, I'm not going to name which company, that has been looking for very good narrative designers, and according to their standards, they said they haven't found. We have very good narrative. Actually, we have good narrative designers in Malaysia, but it's not at the AAA level yet.
I'm not going to ask you to verify this for me, but I do know, at least from my own context, right, that Larian actually has like some
I didn't mention Larian just now, but yeah, that's Larian, by the way.
so I didn't need you to verify it, but like anyway, thanks, because I am aware that Larian has at least interviewed people within Malaysia before, and their standards are so high that they basically said, yeah, no, this is not going to work.
Exactly. Yeah. So you heard about that. You heard of that as well.
I can only wonder what the standards are, because I myself, I work sort of freelance on a narrative capacity,
right.
And as a person who's working in that field, I'm very curious as to like what that standard is. In a large part, really just to see how high the ceiling is, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I guess the sort of going back to the topic that we were talking about just now, right? And using that as an example, I guess what you're saying is just purely that, like, speaking from an educational perspective, right? Like, there aren't that many purist designers that can really teach game design in a meaningful way that can be properly, like, passed into the student, so to speak, like just sort of imbued into the student, so to speak. I guess. I'm sorry. Would that be the right way of framing it?
No, I think we have a lot of talented game designers in Malaysia.
Right.
Definitely we do. It's just whether the universities that are offering these courses, whether they want to hire them. Right. So it's not about there is not enough. I'm talking about not narrative, but games design.
Right, of course.
It's whether or not number one, they want to hire them. Number two, whether or not they are too pedantic about it, because in universities, right, it's all about if you want to teach a degree, you must have a master's. If you want to teach or I need a PhD to teach in a university, you know, minimum entry requirements. I don't think there are any. There are. It's not. I don't think there are no game designers with a PhD.
Right. Of course.
So yeah, you know. And this was something that early on in the during my early years, I sat down with to craft down the standards for games to say that, look, you don't need qualification to teach games. You need work experience.
Right.
Because if you're looking for qualifications, there are none in the early in the early 2010 2008. There were none.
Right.
So how can Malaysia ever hope to create any games courses if we can't find academics? So hire the industry, and industry have experience. They may not even have qualifications.
Right.
So I remembered when we were at the second institution, we broke a lot of rules. We hired people with 20 years of experience, but they didn't even have a diploma. But who cares, right? They have 20 years of experience. That's what I mean by grandmasters, you know?
So funny you should mention this because, funny you should mention that turn of phrase because TOA's tagline for the longest amount of time that I can remember, maybe we've changed it in recent years, but TOA's tagline for the longest amount of time, right, was Masters Teaching Masters, I believe. Was it Masters Lecturing Masters or something like that?
Yeah. So similar concept as well, But TOA didn't really have to worry about that because TOA is a college.
Right, exactly.
Universities are the one that, and TOA being a college, can't offer their own degree programs.
Yes, they can't. In fact, when I was there, it was at the very beginning that they started doing sort of twinning programs. I believe, like they had they had programs where you could actually like it's a 2+1, and then you do 2 years over in UK or something for a degree at the time. So
I mean that has changed somewhat. I mean at least then we managed to bring in people who with the years of experience teach game design, but not many universities will do that. And if you don't do that, that's where you get students who don't really learn what they need to learn, especially for game design. Yeah, especially for everything, right? Game.
Okay. Actually, I wanted to, on that note, I wanted to propose a third possible explanation for it, and this is an explanation that I've offered to some of my colleagues in the past, and I just want to bounce it off you to see what you think about it. Because I suppose a good way to segue into this explanation is to really just ask also in parts for you right now in APU and the courses that you are now in charge of, right? I would automatically assume that for most students you would always be judging your graduating process through like your FYP, which is your final year final year project.
Yes, correct. Okay.
Right. So, is part of the marking scheme is game design as sort of a judged in a theoretical basis at any point in the marking scheme? I'm just curious about
that. Not really. But it's gameplay is part of it.
Right.
Right. So, so what happens in a course? What happens when there are only art and tech?
Right.
So we strongly encourage students to, there may be one of two of you who would want to take the design role, because don't forget, there are certain things called technical designers as well.
Right, of course.
Technical designers are people with, who bridge the gap between game tech and game design.
Right, of course.
So we do mark them based on the technical skills, but for them to really move one step further, and that's where competitions come into the picture, right? You can have the most technically sound game, but gameplay, there's no way you're gonna win the level games, right? So we don't explicitly mark it, but we encourage the students to actually have a lot of game design components inside. And how we do so is by our mentors. So we ensure that there are the academic mentors who will guide them through the thesis, and we have the industry, at least industry mentors, to guide them through the gameplay.
Right. So, sorry, you said thesis just now. There's a written aspect to the FYP? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so this is something, if you notice in Malaysia, all degree programs have honors.
Right.
Right? And to have the honors program means that you have to have a dissertation.
Right.
So and this is a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah. So they actually have to understand how to write a very simple dissertation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No choice lah. It's one of those Malaysia things.
No. So the reason,
which is good. Yeah.
Right. So the reason why I'm asking is because so my comment and at least my explanation, right, was purely based on my familiarity. Keyword here is my familiarity with the graduating requirements for DigiPen, right?
Okay.
As I understand it, and please, if I'm wrong, I am going to happily accept any correction on this matter, right? Is that it's completely based on your FYP. That means basically entirely based on your project, where obviously what you're going to look at is like your polish, how the final product, plays, as well as how smooth it is and everything else that goes along with it, right? But the fact is how you initially pitch your project, or even how you talk about the gameplay mechanics or the gameplay loop, and or how the game is supposed to function, why certain mechanics work, and why things that you might have left on the cutting room floor was a detraction or a distraction from your game, and how this was the neatest, leanest, and most streamlined way you can produce a final year product. Those comments and thoughts and considerations are in no way judged at all. And this, and in case it's not obvious enough, like basically the explanation I gave for why students weren't able to produce all of this is because past their first year, which is the first year where they actually learn their design fundamentals and everything else, they are never tested on those things ever again. And when you have students that are like, oh, I want to pass this course, how do I get high scores and all that kind of stuff, right? Because that's the gears that are working in a student's head. Very often they will focus on what will get them their scores, and that does not necessarily mean thinking in terms of game design and game theory. And that's why they leave it all behind, while their entire focus, right, becomes how do I make this game good in a way that does not necessarily take root in those theories and stuff.
So how we tackle it differently is, for example, I'll choose a current group that we have that just graduated. I can't remember the exact composition. I think it was basically about 3 programmers and 2 artists, no designers.
Right.
But what we had one of our part-time lecturers who should I name him? No. Yeah. So it was mentored by three or 4 of us, and one of our part-time lecturers is actually a designer come programmer, and we met the students. We meet them every week, right, online, without fail, and that person will actually guide them on what. From an art perspective, yes, it's very important. But from a design perspective, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? We actually have, and they managed to showcase their game in the Indie Jam and several other places as well. A lot of people are saying that this game is actually, from a design perspective, is actually very well. It's very addictive. It's a very engaging game.
Right.
And I think the formula for that is this. While we don't mark game design, we tell the students that, look, your final output determines whether or not you get a job in the industry. If you're going as an artist, by all means, right, it's your portfolio.
Right.
But then again, the final game is the one that makes or breaks you when you win competitions or when you go and showcase. People will see it as a collective, as a complete project altogether. So we are a bit like DigiPen. We don't put marks into that, but we nurture and we guide them on the importance of it when they do their projects.
Right. So basically,
because at the end of the day, we are not training game design. They are not game designers, but they actually have to understand that final projects and your final products has to be a culmination of everything.
Right. Interesting.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Oh, no, of course, of course.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating where you thread the lines in between and making sure that, hey, you do have these openings and and at least a fundamental understanding and appreciation for the importance of game design. You know? Yeah. Which begs this really fascinating question that I tend to have with regards to a little bit about education, and also I think sort of like the elephant in the room nowadays when we're talking about any amount of education, especially when it comes to games development and games design in general. And that is, what do you think? Do you have any thoughts on generative AI and AI in general about like how its impact is going to be for games education and games development?
And that's a very interesting question. Yeah. I'm going to tread the line very carefully. But no, the reality is this. I think AI is going to help improve a lot of a student's conceptual development.
Right.
It's there to improve.
What do you mean by would you mind clarifying what do you mean by conceptual development?
So if I want to come up with something very, very quick, idea generation, how an environment will look like, I would use generative AI to very quickly give me ideas, references, inspiration, right? And it's for me to kickstart very fast prototyping.
Right.
And I think the use of AI in that kind of workflow would actually help out a lot. But in no way and no how I would actually encourage students to rely 100% on AI to do their games. Right? So we actually encourage them to actually use AI to a certain aspect in order to kickstart. It's like this, right? If you remember the old types of cars where you have to crank up the engine by turning the little lever, that's generative AI. But everything else that happens inside, that's your hard work, that's your capabilities, and that's your technical skills.
Right.
Use it to boost your production, boost your workflow, to increase your workflow, but don't rely on it 100%. Because when you drive a car, you can't crank. You're not expected to stand in front there and keep on cranking the wheel to drive your car. Right. Yeah. So,
otherwise you're pedaling, right? Even in fact, you're doing that, you're just pedaling,
exactly.
Right. Okay. I suppose the question then, I guess, is why then even mention generative AI at all? Because the reason why I'm asking is because an alternative, right, is to say Google or Pinterest or something like that, because we're using looking for visual references as a point of reference here.
So if I were to go into that, I mean, visual references are based on what's existing out there.
Right.
What if I want to have a visual reference very quickly about something that I have in my mind that is not out there?
Right.
That's where you use your Gen AI.
And do you think Gen AI is able to produce something like that with enough specificity that you think that it would actually stand for something? Is that the case?
No, it's there to actually help you to kickstart, to see whether it does that work, or if it does work, let me just try it and see. So I will be quite hypocritical to say that no, don't use.
Right.
Because I know some people in the industry actually uses it to improve their workflow, or at least their generative juices faster.
Right. So I guess what you're saying is use it as a initial, just sort of a test water kind of thing lah, is what you're saying.
That and for you to improve your later workflow lah, Okay, put it this way. What's wrong with using I'm going to get myself into a lot of trouble by saying this.
Wait. Don't worry. We can take this slow and like you literally the only thing that's going to stop you from paraphrasing is literally time, and it's not my time. It's going to be your time.
So yeah. So let me say in a way that won't get me in trouble with my students or anybody else. Imagine this. I'm a programmer, right? And this is something I had a conversation with a few software developers as well, and they said the same thing. They use generative AI to write codes, right? And that is a skeleton code to make it to have the structure there. But they will go in with a fine-tooth comb. They will optimize it, right? For simple, easy things, they use Gen AI to do it, right? So why am I wasting time on a specific thing that I know I can do? It's going to take me maybe about 1 hour to code it, and get it right and make sure I don't have any mistakes. But I just use AI to just get that tedious little bit out, leaving me enough time to focus on the essential or the hard technical bits that I would prefer a hands-on approach that I know AI may not be able to. So from a company point of view, it improves my efficiency, improves my workflow by double or 3 times, right? And that's not I don't call it a lazy way of working. I call it a strategic, smart way of working. Because then I can produce things faster. And and I need students to actually understand that it's not about cheating. It's not about, I'm going to generate the whole AI and just plunk it in and that's it. I'm done, you probably didn't see me doing that, but I was doing that.
We're all there is no video here, so it's all voice effects or nothing else.
I don't know whether you heard the effect, but yeah, it's like dusting your hand off, right? It's not that. I mean, it's there to actually help you improve on other areas to make a game so much more better, because you can focus on the essential aspects rather than the tedious aspects. So I think that applies with art and tech as well.
Dr. Ike, if you don't mind, and I do apologize by the way. So here's the thing. For those who don't know, and I'm just going to really speak to the audience right now just for a second, For those who don't know, I don't usually put this much screws to my guests, because in part, a lot of the things that we talk about, frankly, and this is I'm sorry if this sounds a little demeaning, but it really is a situation where education is a part that I feel like there's such an impact in it. I'm deeply curious about how games and games development is being taught in this day and age, especially with AI and all this. So this topic, this question, in case it's not obvious, has not been pre-screened by Dr. Ike beforehand. He is literally being put on the spot by me as being such a great sport, okay? And I don't usually do this, but it really is such a topic that I feel like if I didn't take this opportunity to ask Dr. Ike about it, it would be such a missed opportunity, So I really do apologize if I put you a bit in the spot. But...
No, not at all, not at all. I mean, put it this way. It is our duty as educators to teach the students what's available out there.
Exactly.
I would prefer us telling them how to use Gen AI and telling them about Gen AI, then rather don't teach them and let them go out and work in the industry and go and the employers go didn't they teach you that in school? Why are you still doing it this way? So things like that is very important.
So I guess the real
as an educator,
So I guess the real important follow up from that question, from that explanation earlier, is really just to ask then, is then the goal of an educator at your level, to figure out how to teach students to know at what point, that they go these are the things that you can shortcut and these are the things that you should be focusing on to.
You hit the nail exactly. Because it's not about teaching theories and just technical and going through all the things that I went through in the past. It's basically how do you become an effective employee that brings value to your organization.
Right.
So you have to learn how to work smart with all the available tools that are out there.
Right.
We can't teach them things which are being taught in the past 10 years. This is how I was taught, therefore I'm going to teach. Technology has moved so fast.
Right.
I rather teach them to be able to adapt over the next few years, because when they graduate, they're bringing their 1 or 2 years later or earlier or later, right? Education with them. I would prefer them to go out and be taught what's going to disrupt their workforce or their jobs, right? So that's I feel that's a duty of every educator, because at the end of the day we are training future talents.
Right.
And this is not a philosophy from me. This is actually a philosophy handed down by our CEO and founder at APU. He has always said that, his philosophy is this. If you were to ask any universities who their clients are, what do you think, if you were to approach X university now, right, and you ask who are your biggest customers, what do you think a university would say?
I'm assuming they automatically be your students, right?
Right, students. Right. Some will say parents.
Right.
Our philosophy is not that. Our biggest customers are not the students. Our biggest customers are not the parents. Our biggest customers are the industry.
That makes perfect sense.
Right. So it is our duty to ensure that our students are able to fit in perfectly with industry practices and norms. And like it as you may, I've spoken to so many people in the industry. Everybody is using some form of Gen AI or improve their performance to make things simpler. So it will be travesty if we don't do the same with our students. How can we say that, during your 3 years here, you don't touch Gen AI only when you work in... Yeah.
Dr. Ike, just as a small note, I do think you're cutting off at some points. But if but I think for the large part, I think we still follow the conversation, so it's not so bad. I've not had the need to request you to actually repeat yourself in any way yet. But if anything of that comes up, please just keep in mind, lah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So on that note, because one of the reasons, so I do want to come back to the topic about Gen AI. It feels like a wonderful topper, like where you stopped at, but I do feel like I want to talk a little bit more about it as well, because it's a very interesting question. I did ask about, like, when it came to game design and especially Gen AI, because one of the reasons why I ask about that one in particular, because code is one thing and art is another thing. Because art, you can obviously, hey, it comes out with 6 fingers, you know there's something wrong, right? And code is like you plug it into the engine. If it doesn't work, if it crashes your system, it doesn't work. Very obvious, press one button and you're done, right? But then the question of game design comes in, because very often when you're communicating game design, when you're communicating game theory, right, it's so much of it is, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, some part of it is very much about how confident you sound when you're presenting it. Right? It's, you want to call it a huckster's thing, by all means, you're not entirely wrong, right?
Okay.
But a lot of it is about how well you understand like player behavior and how mechanics invoke certain emotions and things like that. I believe it's the I suddenly can't remember. It's the mechanics dynamics.
MDA.
Yes, thank you.
Aesthetics.
Yes, thank you. There we go. Aesthetics. That's the last acronym I forgot. The MDA approach towards game design and stuff like that, right? So a lot of this is something that I like, when so much of that, and especially when it comes to producing GDDs, right, is something that, in theory, something like OpenAI or something like that, or ChatGPT, for example, can produce on their own, and people might not have a really good filter to be able to identify, oh yeah, this is, like, this is bullshitting me, right? like, is there a solution in this in academia in any way? Is there a way to combat any of this? Or is there a way to like just basically improve the because like you mentioned, like a lot of that is like teaching people to filter through a lot of that, right? So coming from a game design perspective, is there a way about this?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, if we talk about from a narrative design, that's a whole other thing altogether. Right. I don't know, to be honest, especially when it comes to game design, especially when it comes to faking out, for example, a core loop, a secondary loop.
Right.
You know, I'm sure ChatGPT will come out with something, but
right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where on paper it can seem like it makes sense, but when you put it into practice, it doesn't.
Right. I mean,
especially when it comes to games design.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, because I think one of the best examples that I can think of, which is not part of the games industry, right, is stories of people looking at ChatGPT to answer law questions. Then it starts making up like law citations that never existed, cases that never existed.
Yeah.
Or it misremembers years. Hallucinations with ChatGPT is very common and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So.
But having said that, right? So here's the thing. When it comes to game design, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. If a student were to come out, and I've never tried this,
of course.
Goodness no, I've never asked ChatGPT to come out with a GDD before. After this, probably I'm going to try and see and test the theory. Because end of the day, the proof of the pudding is in the taste, right?
Right.
So you can ask ChatGPT to come up with whatever crap you want, and when you develop it and it doesn't work, that's on the student.
Right.
Right. So there's only and we don't. GDD is only taught at the principal side. Right. Everything else is about the application of what you do into the game. The GDD, the technical documentation, that's for you to get the process. So at the end of the day, you can use ChatGPT, or a student can use ChatGPT all they want in the game design, but it doesn't work. If the playtest sucks, playtest sucks, and you're just going through one iterative cycle, and you have to figure that out yourself again. So, but then again, I never thought what happens if ChatGPT comes out with a GDD that actually works and created a successful game.
Well, I guess that's the other side of the conversation, I suppose.
Yeah, correct, right?
Yeah. Like they say, like, 1,000 monkeys and Shakespeare, right? So at some point, ChatGPT is gonna get it right.
but on the flip side, so I'm going to play the devil's advocate now, right? So assuming I have a group of students right now, and because we only have game art and game tech, I have 3 artists and 3 programmers, and none of the 6 of them are particularly interested in doing game design.
Right.
And there you have it. They use ChatGPT to actually help them develop the entire flow and the artwork. I mean, and the narrative or whatever. And they then decide to say, okay, as an artist, I'm just going to create all the art. The programmer say, okay, as a programmer, I'm going to create all the back end up, the tools and everything. The game design is entirely ChatGPT, and they come up with something interesting. Kudos to them. Because no one's going to hire the 6 of them as a designer anyway.
Well, that's true. I suppose the question I have is mostly because speaking for myself, more often than not, a lot of people think they can do game design. So and it's always this kind of problem where the fact that you don't know where your game design lacks is always a problem. And now with ChatGPT being able to fake the language of game design, the question then becomes, how much more harder is it going to convince someone that game design is something that you really actually need to study? Like it takes time for you to develop a game design sense.
True. But then again, at this point in time, if ChatGPT, I wouldn't use ChatGPT, I'll just use generative AI. is able to convincingly come up with something, and it includes areas of human psychology and human behavior and engagement, but companies would love that, man.
Right, but here is the argument, right? The problem here is like how you mentioned about how like ChatGPT or generative AI will produce bad code or bad art, right? Like it takes a person who is experienced with it to be able to tell that it's bad code or bad art. So in a very similar, you get what I'm getting at? Like in a very same vein, right? If you don't have people who are more experienced to filter through bad design, you're just going to think that it's acceptable design.
Okay. So here's the thing with bad code tends to show up in either some bugs or another.
Correct, exactly. So you press one button and you see whether it crashes or not, right?
So it's actually quite evident, right? Bad code will come out bad code, right?
Exactly.
Something will happen along the way.
Right.
On a flip side, if I were to get a generative AI to create a novel, and I published the novel, and 10,000 people bought the novel, read it and had a bad taste in the mouth. It's still a storyline that goes from start to finish, right? It's just that experience of it, rather than a technical thing where it doesn't work or visual thing that you go like, oh shucks, So I suppose, and I'm not saying that to downgrade or to downplay the importance of game design. What I'm trying to say is, there may come a time where the human consumption of generative AI in terms of storytelling and everything may, and we see that, right? A lot of people are now publishing books after books and using Gen AI, right?
It's very disappointing, by the way, but let's move on.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's, and what's to tell a bad author from a generative AI spun story, right? Yeah. So it's a bit hard to answer. But I've always believed this. The education should mirror reality.
Right.
Yeah, and they should learn the consequences and the action as well. If they can craft, and if they can manipulate, if they can prompt a generative AI to come up with a amazing gameplay, by all means.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. So you game the system, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, truth be told, like the root of the question is very much about how people can tell when they don't have the skills. But I do get what you're getting at, in the sense that, like, the problem is, at the end of the day, the market will judge. I get what I can get from what you're saying is the market will judge, and at the end of the day,
the market will judge. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, like,
the market is already judging.
It is. It absolutely
the amount of crap games there are out there.
It absolutely is. But I will forever be a purist in my ways. The fact is that it's always a pain point for me that the marketplace is often flooded with sort of low effort reskins, or like AI spam games now. Oh god. And all that kind of stuff. And it's a pain point for me. It's absolutely, like, it's exhausting to just filter through all that trash,
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, but end of the day, exactly, it comes down to this. It boils down to the market will judge. Whether or not you are good in programming or use generative AI to come out with your codes, the employers will judge, right? So, it's all about being. It's how far you want to go. On that note, we are living in a day and age where it's the same as computers. 30 years ago, people would say that everybody, you don't need a computer. You don't need a computer, right? Computer is just a tool. Try saying that nowadays.
Right. It's funny
Right?
that you should
So
mention that because I think the UN has sort of voted access to internet as a fundamental human right, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just talking about this with my wife the other day, because I was talking about how like you can't imagine in our lifetime, right? Um, the idea of having access to information, just generally just information, right? And via the internet by extension, um, has gone from a privilege to a necessity for you to survive. You literally cannot live today, right? Like I cannot imagine a day in a life of an average person nowadays, right, where you don't have access to the internet. Because even now, even in KL, right, I just found out recently that they're moving all driving licenses digital.
Right. Right.
You know, even
So
your road tax is digital now.
yeah, yeah. So try to imagine 15 years from now where
Right.
the UN will come out. Yeah, AI is
Right. So I definitely I mean it's I don't know. I personally still belong in a school. Maybe I'm just old fashioned, and maybe this is a privilege that I can continue to indulge in. That Dr. Ike, given his circumstances as an educator and all that, have to be ultra forward thinking and stuff, right?
yeah.
That might not be able to indulge in. But like to me, at the end of the day, like you still need to learn your fundamentals. For me, that
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you 100%.
right.
It's it reminds me of the time where um don't know whether you remember
Mhm.
HTML, the hard coding
Yeah,
HTML
yeah,
on a notepad,
yeah.
right? And when Dreamweaver came out and people
Right,
started saying that, oh, why are we studying hard coding on
right,
a notepad when there's Dreamweaver
right,
available? Yeah, because you have to understand the fundamentals.
right. So
Yeah.
I suppose I suppose I misspoke there. And once again, feel free. Like this is just really how off the cuff
Yeah.
this whole conversation has been, right? The fact is you have said something that is in truth what the industry really needs, which is still like there is still a need for a deep respect for the fundamentals, which is why at least for you guys you are still teaching C++, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think if anyone needs a testament to respect to the fundamentals, that is definitely like in that space.
Yeah.
No one's telling like any new artists who are trying to train themselves in game art and everything to like not learn how to hold a pen properly, for example. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah. 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 So we are doing justice where definitely the fundamentals have to be taught,
Right.
but we also have to tell them, look, these are the tools that you can use to also improve yourself. So usually at year one we don't teach them that.
Right.
Year two, as they go along, we tell them that this you can use this to improve your workflow.
Right.
Right. So it's the tips, tricks, and techniques. It's just that this time the tips, tricks, and techniques include generative AI.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So it's funny because I've actually brought this I've actually I had someone I was giving a talk to one of the Singapore universities at one point when they were doing their game
Right.
jams and stuff. One of the students was asking me my thoughts on AI, and I smiled at them and go like, I definitely don't like it, but
Mm.
to students, specifically to students, uh,
Right.
I told them for the same reasons your math teacher told you not to use a calculator when you first learn how to do arithmetic,
Yeah.
do not use generative AI as long as you're still learning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whatever benchmark that is to you, I'll leave it to you. But like, as long as you still consider yourself a student of game design, do not use generative AI for your game design.
Right. Okay.
You know. So yeah, I felt like that was the best analogy that I could think of.
Yeah, yes, the calculator thing,
Right,
right?
exactly, right.
But then it depends. If you're studying pure maths, you don't use a calculator. If you're doing actual studies, then a calculator is a must.
Well, not really. In pure math, at some level, you do still need it.
Yeah, you still need. Yeah. But then
gets
again,
pretty nasty towards the
by
end.
the way, right?
Yeah.
Most mathematics subjects at tertiary level they require you to have a calculator on hand now.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. So how
know.
times have changed, right?
Well, I don't know. Like I went through A levels myself, and
Right.
I was a pure math student in
All
A
right. Okay.
levels, so I've seen the nastier side of math. It's definitely fascinating.
Okay.
So yeah.
I wouldn't know. I did so badly in math, so yeah.
Well, no.
Calculator or no?
No. I get it. I get it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like it's I'm one of those ultra nerds that like understood the theories of mathematics well enough that rather than to memorize the the formulas that was given, and by the way, I only failed like this whole part because like I didn't do my homework properly. Um, rather than to memorize the thing, I understood the theory well enough to reverse engineer the answer.
Awesome.
Right? So I sat in for a trial test, right? And I was like, oh shit, I don't know how to use the formulas properly. But what's the logic for this? I remembered like the lecturers teaching me how they derived the formula, and then basically I just worked backwards from there. And the only reason why I got the answer wrong, by the way, the only reason why I got the answer wrong was because I did not use the calculator towards the end.
Okay.
I had a arithmetic error. Anyways, all right, Dr. Ike, we hit 12 o'clock right now. We don't have any other further standing questions, so I think I want to call it a night for tonight because you've been wonderful, and I think I've definitely put you on the spot long enough.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We definitely need a little bit more time with Gen AI.
Yeah. I have so many fascinating questions to ask also as well. Like in part, because I like questions about how, in particular, like education might have grappled with, say, trends in the industry. Everything from like VR at one time was a huge thing to Web3, which was like a couple of years. and like there's so many questions behind that, but I really feel like each of these topics have their own, like, you know, they deserve their own segment.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
maybe the next time it wouldn't be a one-to-one. We may want to bring in a few more people and we can have an interesting conversation or debate.
We might be able to do a panel on it.
Yes.
But I'm just going to flag out for anyone who might be looking forward to hearing me like set up a panel on Web3 games or anything else like that. Please do not look forward to that, because I do not think like I've spoken in private about this matter before, that I do not believe the technology, while it's intriguing, has sufficient practical application in games to justify its widespread like adaptation. Maybe it's somewhere else, but probably not in games.
Okay, I'm 100% with you on that, by the way. Okay, 50% now, yeah. For the listeners out there, it's gonna judge me. 75%.
I've always been of the thought that, hey, if you think I'm wrong, please feel free to let me know how. I've actively tried to explore other ways of it. In fact, I actually started having an interest in economy as a result of the Web3 fad. I'm not even joking on that one.
Okay.
I started listening to like Web3 economy podcasts and like YouTubers, and even like I've been listening to an entire like book about economy, the world economy and stuff like that, like all because of Web3. So it's fascinating what this industry has led, the rabbit holes that this industry has led me. But so far I've not seen reason for Web3. Anyway, a weird segue to end the thing on. Still, thank you very much, Dr. Ike, for your time. You've been a wonderful
thank you
guest.
for having me on this. Thank you for having me on board. So sorry if I ramble on a lot.
No. That's the whole point of this segment, for you to ramble.
All right.
For those of you guys who've been sticking around with us the whole time, thank you very much for sticking around. If you like this segment, please like and subscribe to standard YouTube stuff and leave a comment below. I will try and time. I keep saying this, but I never actually get around to it. I do apologize about that, but I'll try to timestamp this one whenever I can. It's a YouTube homework that I'm really, really bad at. Yeah. If you like more of Dr. Ike, please let me know. I will always be happy to have him back on other topics as well. I have several other segments from time to time. Otherwise, the next stream I have is probably on this Sunday, where I will actually be I'll be teaching a friend how to play Magic the Gathering. Yep. And it's a very unique one because my friend has literally never played a card game in her life. Or like of like a trading card game. I have to put a massive asterisk there. Like she's played Uno.
Okay. By the way, I'm one of the first gen Magic the Gathering players. That was in 1990. Can't remember, 1996.
96 is pretty new. 92 was alpha. Yeah. 92 is alpha.
Yep.
Yeah. I am.
When it came to Malaysia, right? Yeah.
Yeah. 95 is, from what I know, earliest in Malaysia is 95.
95. Yeah. About that time. Yeah. About that time, I Sarah Angel, Baron. Yeah. I didn't have a Black Lotus, but yeah.
Oh, no, I like, for what it's worth, I'm pretty familiar with Magic the Gathering's history.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remembered. Yeah, we started. I was caught up into it. Very early on. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Dr. Ike.
Conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Conversation for another day.
That is going to spawn another segue, man.
Yes.
Let's call it for tonight. Thank you everyone for joining us for as long as you have. I hope you a wonderful weekend. I'll be back again on Sunday, as I mentioned, for that stream. I still don't have a PV up, by the way. We will probably put up something soon. But till then, I'll see you guys around. Good night and have a wonderful weekend ahead of you. Tatas. Bing bong.